welcome to a new episode of 100% Tilted Discussions with Winning Underdogs. I'm your host, Michael David. It is good to have you guys with us because today is yet another really special treat. Because for those that are listening and not watching, this guest today is a Houston guy, which we're always glad to have Houston Winning Underdogs in the studio. But his story is one that really felt like this was one that was going to be relevant to help people in a time where there's a lot of unknowns and people could be losing jobs, people losing a lot of things that could have been secure for the past 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, building a sustainable living for themselves, but then wondering, what can I do? And our guest today is a graduate of University of Houston with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. Best known as the co-founder of LS1 Tech, an online automotive community which grew into the largest of its kind, with over 300,000 registered members, of which this business sold for millions only 5 years after starting. But the kicker is, that was his part-time side hustle gig, while having a full-time career in oil and gas as a project manager from college. But Tony didn't grow up with wealthy means, wasn't given a silver spoon of which to grow any type of entrepreneurial business. His mom was a cafeteria worker, working for the school district. So he wasn't necessarily given an easy path. And what makes Tony so relevant is also he took a lot of the lessons that he learned, practical, mind you, not fluff, not a bunch of unsupported motivational, you can do it if you put your mind to it, but real tactics in how to grow a side hustle for yourself. If you don't have any business experience, not even a business degree, this book explains it and lays it out. Tony is also the author of The Side Hustle Millionaire, How to Build a Side Business That Creates Financial Freedom. Now, this is not a MLM. This is not a coachable, tiered pyramid kind of thing. This is nuts and bolts. So we are proud to welcome today Mr. Tony Whatley.
Hey, Michael David, thank you for this opportunity. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to share some real value with your listeners today.
For us, Tony, to be totally transparent, the company that we have here wasn't something that was purchased. It wasn't something that was easy to create. Being a national company with 3 brands came from an idea, a dream of, we want to do something different. We want to do it better. And let's just see how big we can grow it. The roll your sleeves up, doesn't matter what your title is. It's everybody's responsibility to make sure this thing succeeds, including our franchisees. We're just not really given a lot that I've found in this wantrepreneur era, where everybody's a CEO on their Instagram.
Yeah.
But what that title really carries with it is heavy. There is nobody you can go to. Right? I mean, that's one of the glories of a job, a job, is you have the next person above you that is ultimately responsible for what it is you're doing. So you can always kind of pass the buck. Now, I don't personally believe that's going to be a blueprint for success if you operate that way. You have a dream for wealth. You have a dream for owning your own business. But if that's how you operate in your job, you're not going to be successful as an entrepreneur with your own business.
Agreed.
Right? I mean, I do believe you don't have to own a business to be an entrepreneur. I think an entrepreneur is a mentality, a mindset. Yeah. You're a problem solver. You take ownership, right? You're ethical. You help people. You go out of your way. You go above and beyond. You always see what else you can do to improve, to get better, to move that needle, not only in your own life, but in the lives of other people that you're ultimately trying to help, right? With your product or service. But you did something that for so many people, we're in an age where a side hustle is doable. To become a millionaire with a side hustle is doable, as long as you're listening to the right people, right? And I think that is one of the things that made this book. And when I saw it, and when I read this thing, man, it was probably one of the greatest reads, because we read books every month here, and there's so many, great philosophies and ideologies caught up in these books. And what a lot of people are missing are the tactics, the real nuts and bolts of it, right? And you took essentially a business degree, terminology, mentality of what it takes, and you put it into a book that is easy to read. Yeah. It's easy to grasp, right? So let's kind of peel this back as we kind of go through, because I love origin stories. Because I think that makes it relatable, because people could be looking at you going, side hustle millionaire. Well, he was just, it's his thing. Like that was a talent he was given, and it's not true.
No.
Right. So going back when you were growing up, what was kind of that influence for you? What was growing up like for you?
Well, first of all, I wanted to point out that you caught on to the book was really easy to read, and your business model here, you've got manly salons with a bar involved, right?
Yeah.
I actually wrote that book in the mindset that I was having beers with a friend. So there's no hierarchy. There's no judgment. It's like if I had a friend just like you and I are sitting here having a conversation about how to start businesses over beers, and actually to put myself into that mode, sometimes I would actually sip a pint of beer while I was writing the book. So you're not the first one to catch that, but that was purposeful. I wanted to make it a conversation. I've been really well known for simplifying really complicated things. Yes, I'm an engineer by education, by career, but I don't consider myself the typical engineer. I'm actually more creative, and I'm more artistic, and I like to build things with my hands, and I'm not afraid to get dirty.
Yeah.
But the engineering degree was just a means to go pursue a 6-figure income. That was what it was. And it was something I had interest in with my cars. And that was the degree path that potentially could lead to me working.
Because you're a gearhead.
I'm a gearhead. I like to race and build cars. And so even in engineering school, I didn't always fit in with what I would say the 80 percentile engineers are. They're very analytical, introverted, really not doing anything like crazy outside of their studies. And I was always the academic that liked contact sports and liked the adrenaline rush and liked to do crazy things and push myself a little harder. So I've always been that entrepreneur, even though we didn't know what that meant back then, right?
Back then it was just unemployed.
Usually a business owner, when you'd meet somebody when I was younger, you kind of felt sorry for them.
Yeah.
Because most of them were struggling. And even today, I would say, despite what Instagram tells you, I'd say 70% of business owners are struggling. Even though every time you see them, hey, how you doing, man? How things going? Oh, man, I'm crushing it. All-time records. Like, they always give you the same answer.
Right.
But then they come to me as a business coach, and we hear the real answers. And it's like, it's not always what it seems.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your question, though, the origin story. I grew up in really just a small town, Friendswood, Texas, suburb of Houston. Back then, there was 1,000 kids total in the high school. I think there's 1,000 per grade nowadays. It's not the same city I grew up in.
Totally different.
But my parents really valued education and discipline and things like that. So they wanted to make sure that we grew up that wasn't the trailer park that my dad's background came from. So he was literally the first one in his family to go out and try to buy a house that didn't have wheels attached to it. And my mom is a Japanese immigrant. I was actually born in Japan on a military base. My dad's a Vietnam vet. And after he got out of the war, he came back and got out of the military, and he joined working in the chemical refineries in the Houston area, Freeport, Baytown, all these different companies. So my mom,
huge sector of Houston.
Yeah. Lower East Houston there. And I followed his footsteps even after high school. That's how I was able to put myself through college, is working construction and working as a pipe fitter and a welder and things like that. So I understand that kind of stuff. And my parents really moved us to Friendswood because they had a good school district. We couldn't afford to live there. We were lower middle class. We bought the crappiest house in the crappiest neighborhood, literally. And within a few years, my sister and my parents and I would restore these houses while we lived them. Like nowadays we call them flip houses, right? We would live in those flip houses. They were like literally the crappiest, ugliest houses in the crappiest neighborhood. And as my sister and I got older, my parents would sell that one and just buy a little bit bigger crappy house. So the first 3 houses that I lived in were basically flippers that we restored as we lived in. And that taught me a lot of value of seeing the potential in things, even though from the outset, it looked like, oh my God, it's got green carpet and pink walls and just terrible, right?
Yeah.
But my parents were always good at seeing the potential and putting a lot of love and attention to things that we own. Even if we didn't have a lot, eventually each of those 3 houses became one of the nicer houses in that neighborhood because my parents, especially my mom, she loved gardening and landscaping. That's her hobby. It's her passion. She just loves doing that. Even their house now is like the most landscaped house in their neighborhood. And so we would paint and scrape paint and paint the house and fix all the trim and replace the roof, like just anything we could to make these houses do that. In my first car, I had to build myself. It was a $1,200 rust bucket 1969 Camaro that I helped buy from working at McDonald's and pushing the lawnmower around the neighborhood. And it didn't run. And my dad and I restored that whole car. We had to rebuild the engine. I was outside after football practice, sanding the body, getting it all Bondo artiste, making it look as best I could at a high school kid's budget. And I drove that car all the way through high school. So I've been really good at seeing the potential in things and putting in the work, not being afraid to put in the work to go create what I wanted from that. And nowadays I started realizing that I do that with humans. I've always been this person that could see other people and see the potential that they have. Even as long as I can remember, I could do this. But I always thought that was normal. I always thought that that's what everybody could see. If I could see that, everybody could see that. I'm not special. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to meeting somebody and seeing what their potential is, and they don't even believe it for themselves, I feel like that a lot of people out there really just don't have that external belief because of their society or how they were raised. Maybe it's their parents or teachers, their administrative and authoritative roles in their life who maybe push their ceilings and their limitations or potential down. I was very fortunate to have parents, especially my mom. She was always the big thinker, the Japanese, just always saying that you can be whatever you want to be. She used to say things like, you could be the president of the United States. You could be the spaceman. You could, she was always saying things like that. And I just thought that was normal. I thought everybody got that. And my dad was more of the pessimist type, the focus on things. Let's keep things realistic. I mean, military sergeant type discipline. Mm-hmm. So I grew up with the
dreamer and the practitioner.
Yeah, by far. I mean, she was an artist. She likes to build things. She likes to garden, the creator. Mm-hmm. And my dad was just the one that would just go sweat and make the money and make sure that we were taken care of. So when you grow up that way, things like we hear nowadays, like vision boards and stuff like that. I actually had that. We didn't call it that. I called it a dream board. My mom would go buy a cork board, put it above my desk where I would build my model cars and airplanes and draw pictures. And she'd say, hey, here's some magazines you like, cut stuff out that you like and thumbtack it to this dream board. Anytime you win something, like thumbtack it on there. If you win a medal, whether it's Little League sports or award or whatever, like just put all the things that make you happy, things that you want when you grow up. And so I grew up that way, thinking that this is how everybody probably grows up. This has got to be normal, right?
And so for those that are, this is a powerful thing. I think a lot of times this is minimized. Yeah. The power of visualization, manifestation. A lot of people associate these words with weirdos, with flighty people that are kind of off, that are doing yoga 30 hours a day, right? That's not really something that can be done practically. But there is actually a medical and chemical process that occurs when you place things in front of you. It's called the reticular activating system, the RAS. Yeah. And your brain, and for those, I hope you guys really get this because Tony's going to show you how this works. He's going to give you the examples in his life of what that vision board really turned into because it did materialize. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. It doesn't mean it's going to happen without work, without effort, because life is going to begin to see when you put it in front of you. We're going to master what we repeat. Now, if we repeat, we can't. If we repeat inside of our thought process, it's not possible for me. If we're going to repeat inside of our thought process that my family didn't have this, I don't have that, then it's just not in the cards for me. Then your brain is going to find the things in life that's going to affirm that thought process. Right. On the flip side, if you give your brain the things to focus on, of things you truly want, things that you're willing to work for, things that you believe you can acquire in life, no matter your conditions, you put it in front of you. If you materialize it, you're now telling your brain, if this is what you want, then we're going to create and recognize and put you in places that are going to give you the opportunity to have those things. I test this in my life, and I did this recently. There were a couple of watches I wanted, not timepieces, but watches. Mm-hmm. It's different, right? For people that are watch heads, they know what I'm talking about. It was a couple of G-Shocks. I just like to watch, right? Yeah. And I printed them off and I put them on my wall in my office behind my computer where it's always in front of me. Put it in my car, put it on my phone, put it on my mirror, I put it in front of me. And I want those two watches. And every day I saw it. Because if you don't give yourself opportunities to really see how that works, when you have a really big dream and a vision, it'll never happen because you haven't given yourself the confidence to know that it actually can work. You got to start with the mailboxes that we talked about before the show. And about 3 months later, this watch, and I believed I was going to have them. I believed like I'd already envisioned myself wearing them, already had the clothes that I knew that they were going to go with. Like I just saw it. Like when I thought about going out to dinner or doing things in my life, I could see the watch on me.
Yeah.
3 months later, I didn't have just one, I had both.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to get both of those watches. And when I wear them, it is a constant reminder of that reticular activating system and how powerful visualization is. That camera that I took your photo with earlier, right? When I got into photography 15 years ago, the vision of being a professional photographer was the big fancy rigs, the Hasselblads and all this stuff. But I knew there was this one camera that I wanted. I started as a Nikon guy. Canon guys, don't be mad.
Canon guy.
Don't be mad. Don't hate. Don't hate. But it was this Canon D3X, man. And I wanted that camera. And it was just the camera body alone. It was like $7,000, $7,500. But I printed it off and I put it everywhere.
Yeah.
And 3 years later, I had it. I had the means to acquire it. Didn't just show up on my doorstep.
Oh, no.
It wasn't some miracle.
No. Somebody didn't leave it on your doorstep. No, that's crazy.
But that is the power of what this is.
Yeah.
And please don't minimize this, guys, because Tony's going to tell you exactly how this works. He has the proof of how this works.
Yeah.
Too many people minimize that. If you're thinking about too big of a dream and not giving yourself the room and the steps and the mailboxes to get through of really how you're going to be able to see that work, because it's not going to happen by accident. It happens by choice, right? And how you direct your thought process. But that RAS, and look at that, Google that. Yeah. Look up what the reticular activating system is. In layman terms, if you're going to go on a diet, what happens? All of a sudden you see every billboard, TV commercial, and everything is about food. It's not, they've always been there. Yeah. It's now just on the forefront, right? Yeah. Sorry to interject, but I felt it was so important for this.
RAS is huge. I mean, a good example, you got it right next to you, that book. Show that logo there, the little gold logo there. Amazon #1 bestseller logo. I put that on my vision board before I wrote that book.
Really?
I said, you know what? Amazing. I'm going to write this book. And if I'm going to write a book, it's going to become #1 on Amazon. And I actually showed my group. At that time, it was probably about 1,000 people in that group. My vision board, every year I would do it at the beginning of the year, and I would just show them an update. It doesn't change a whole lot because some of them are long-term, some of them are short-term. Most of the short-term goals that I created 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago, have all come true. And they've been on my vision board. And I called my shots. I mean, I used to be a competitive 9-ball player and 8-ball player. Like, I got used to calling my shots and following through, and that's what I'm known for. So I put that on there, and people some of the people I knew, like really close, would laugh about that.
Like, you put it in the graphics.
I actually put it right dead center of because it's the backdrop of my computer. I'll get on Photoshop and I'll do the backdrop of my computer. My desktop will be my vision board. And I put that logo, that very logo, on the middle of it before I wrote the book. And people were laughing about it. Like, only 1% of books ever achieve bestseller, and like all the reasons not to achieve it. So I said, okay, I'm an engineer. I can reverse engineer this just like anything. Like, how do you achieve #1? Who's done it? How can I learn from them? What are the best practices? You're a marketer. Most people think that you just write this book, you put it out there on Amazon, and all of a sudden it either sells or it doesn't sell. But I'm a marketer too, and I realize, like, this is just another product. And if I do the marketing in the right sequence and make sure I connect with the right people and learn from the people who have done this repeatedly, they're going to have a process that's going to overlap with other people who have also done it repeatedly. And I can start to pull that source out of that and realize, like, if I just do these steps and execute it at the same level as they did, I got damn good odds to get the same result. So just like with anything that you want a result, whether you want to go earn millions of dollars or become a best-selling author, go learn from the people who have actually done those kind of things. Ask them the right questions to get the result, and then just mimic the result. Because that's what it did. It's okay. I'm going to market this book. What does that entail? That means that I need to go on public speaking things. I needed to become a podcaster. Maybe I need to build a group that will support this book and help it launch. I need to make sure I hire a legit cover designer instead of using some bull crap that looks like your 10-year-old nephew did it between naps. I mean, I see some of these book covers that are terrible. It's terrible design. Like, the colors are off. 10,000 different fonts being used, just terrible graphic design. And if you're not a graphic designer and you don't know aesthetics or the psychology of colors, because that does matter, you need to go hire people that know how to do this kind of stuff, because it gives you better odds. And, people are like, oh, you don't judge a book by your covers. The hell you don't. You definitely judge books by covers. I mean, that's just a cliche.
Judge video by thumbnails.
We judge people by appearance. Nobody likes to talk about it, but it's true. It's not PC to say that, but it's true. I mean, if you walk in the room and you're physically fit and you're dressed well for the place that you're in, and people are going to notice. They're going to notice. They're going to, hey, this person either has accountability, has discipline, or like, whoa, that person does not. Do I want to do business with this person or this one over here? Right? We all get judged. Nobody likes to admit it, but it's the truth. It's human nature. Even animals judge. Animals can tell their own species. Animals can tell, like, oh, there's another dog. Oh, there's another cat. I don't like that cat over there because we're not the same. Like, it's just built into us. It's our survival instinct. So, yeah, where are we going with that? But
honestly, that's part of what our brains are using to determine
safety,
but then also opportunity.
Yes.
Because if you have in your RAS built in certain things about vision, you walk into a room, you're looking for people that are going to align with that vision and energy.
Absolutely.
Right? You're not going to gravitate towards the weak one, the one that's sitting there in wrinkled clothes. Now, given some of the greatest billionaires wear flip-flops and a t-shirt, but in the beginning, when you're really looking to make connection, you want to present well. You want to represent yourself well.
Right.
Right? And if you walk into a room, not arrogant, but confident, people sense that.
Yeah.
There's a real sense and difference between cockiness and confidence.
Absolutely.
And posture, shoulders, the way you look and engage with people, and just the behavior behind even nonverbals, powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely powerful.
Well, they say 80% of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, people can size you up right when they see you, and nobody talks about that because they just think, oh, everybody should just love you how you are and accept you for how you are. Like, that sounds great on a poster, but that's not reality, Like, do you want real results? Because that's what matters.
I think we're in an age where, and I think you'll attest to this, saw it in the fitness industry. Somebody does a bodybuilding show, and then all of a sudden now they're a coach. Somebody postures on social media, takes a few photos in front of a Lambo that's not theirs, and all of a sudden now they're doing a mindset seminar. They're doing a mentor program, doing a mastermind, and they haven't accomplished anything.
Yeah, seen that a lot. Instagram life. I actually parodied that, and actually one of my most liked posts on Instagram was I was making fun of the Lambo guys because I'm a car guy, right? The Jeep that's out there parked in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I put the tailgate down.
Dope ass Jeep, by the way.
I put the tailgate down, and I opened all 4 doors because the Lambo guys always got their doors open, even though they're alone. Like I was like, why do they always got 2 doors open when they're by themselves? Are they letting their dog in, or did someone run out the other door? Or, like, why you always got to have both doors open on your sports car to stand in front of it like this? Yeah. And so that's what I did. Is I sat on the tailgate and I pulled out my phone and I was just like, with all 4 Jeep doors open, and everybody got a kick out of that. Because, I mean, I just call it out like it is. I'm a car guy, and people ask me, like, how come you don't have a Lambo? It's because I like American cars. I have several American cars. I don't dislike Lamborghini. I don't dislike Ferrari. I would like to have one of those one day, but they're not at the priority. I would have to buy probably a Ford GT or a couple of those and a bunch of Copo 1969 Camaros and another 70 Chevelle. Like, I have a list of cars I would rather have than the Lamborghini, and one of those is my 1969 Camaro. I mean, thing I built, it's been on the cover of Super Chevy. I've got more invested in that car than a Lamborghini costs, but most people don't realize that because they don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, they're looking at the flash.
Yeah,
which is what misdirects a lot of people. Yeah. Okay, let's. I want to take you back for a second, because the real nut and bolts of this, of what makes your story so relatable and empowering, not motivational, not inspiring, but aspiring. Big difference.
Yeah.
Is you became a millionaire with a side hustle while you were working in oil and gas, in comfortable, high five, became 6-figure income, guaranteed. That's where most people stop.
Yeah.
But there was something in you that was like, there's something more here, right? You went to college. If you had that itch already, why did you end up going to college? Was it out of obligation with your family? That was just where I needed to start?
Yeah, yeah, I love that questioning. I didn't believe I would ever be a business owner because growing up in small town, riding your bicycle through Main Street, you see the buildings with the names like Whatley something, or, you know, hardware or whatever the names are. It's always your last name and what you do. And growing up without money, you think about, I'm going to need a lot of money just to be a business owner. Because like we always hear this stupid phrase, like takes money to make money, that bullshit that people perpetuate between each other. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it makes it easier to make money when you have money, but it's not a requirement, especially nowadays with the internet, right? And so I never believed I would be a business owner. And you and I kind of joked about it, like business owner, you kind of feel sorry for them originally back then, because maybe it means they couldn't get a job, or they just really weren't good in the corporate, so they had to go do something else and earn less. So it's a different perspective. Like entrepreneur was not cool or anything like that back then. And I didn't have any belief in my mind about becoming a millionaire and stuff like that. I mean, you grow up lower middle class, you don't have that. And your parents aren't doing it. You're like, you just think like, dude, that is so far from ever being a reality. It's not even possible. And I want to illustrate that too, because when I started the company that eventually made millions, I didn't have that as a goal. Like I just wanted to build a really cool website for guys to hang out and talk about cars and racing on. Like I just wanted to do that for myself. Like all these people that are hanging out online, what if I make some cool place for them to hang out and talk about cars? And we just treated it like a business. Although it was a side business, within 5-6 months, it was actually paying me more than my salary, my engineering career. And
so you created like a website that was like a forum, like a paid
forum.
access?
Yeah, forum.
Okay.
Just to attract eyeballs. And it was all user-generated content. And I would do how-to articles on how to make a car faster or look better, how to drive better. Like I would create the content a lot. And what I became known for, and even to this day, I'm still this way, is I would just answer people's questions. So if you're out there wondering like how you create value or how to create a brand or a reputation for being someone that gives value, just answer people's questions, especially when you know the answer. Because nowadays people will have a question, let's say for Facebook, right? Or Instagram, people have a question. Most people will scroll by because one, they think they're too busy to just answer something that literally takes a few seconds to type out the answer. Or two, they think they're above that level of questioning, that they'll leave that for the amateurs and they'll just keep scrolling. And then maybe when they come to a harder, more challenging question that they can pontificate on, right? They'll answer those. No, dude, if I scroll by and I see you ask a question that I know the answer to, or I can guide you to the source that has the answer, takes me seconds. And I was doing that on Mustang websites and on other General Motors websites back in the late 90s. And when I decided to go create my own website, people were like, hey, that guy's always helping other people. Like, let's go see what he's doing over there. And so I'd already built like my personal brand before that was even a phrase in the late 90s. And when I started my website in 2001, people were curious. They're like, hey, this guy's always contributing value, answering questions, sending us resources, teaching us stuff. Maybe we just go hang out and see what he's doing for a while. Give it a go, right?
So you're working oil and gas, and I want to create a website that I can just create a way to have a conversation, create a community.
Yeah.
Right? So when you initially built that website, did you know how to build websites?
I'd taught myself how to code websites, really simple stuff, 2 to 3 pagers. And earlier, that was one of my first side hustles, was building these really simple websites by coding HTML and teaching myself Photoshop. I would go literally buy books, read chapter 1, practice that, read chapter 2, practice that. And I would just teach myself things because I knew that if I learned a new skill, I could potentially trade that for money, which meant more car parts for me. And eventually I was actually trading websites for car parts. So I would say, hey, I have a Pontiac Trans Am. You sell a set of headers. I noticed that you don't have a website. How about I build a website for you and you just give me a set of headers? And they're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, let's do this.
Especially at that time, because website building was expensive.
This was late 90s. So a lot of companies, a lot of performance shops, a lot of manufacturers didn't have websites. And if they did, it was really crappy.
Yeah.
And I would just trade them car parts. Eventually I ran out of room for car parts. And I said, well, why don't I just start charging for this stuff? And I would charge $1,000 to go build a simple website that I could knock out in 3 hours. Right. And so I had already started building that skill by the time 2001 came around to start, okay, well, I can do graphic design. I know how to make logos. I understand all the marketing things, and I can read a book on how to set up a server. Like, that's pretty easy. I can just read the book. So
that scaled.
That scaled.
But as you're doing that, was that for people that were also now a part of your forum?
Yeah. The thing is that it started to grow, and probably by month 10, we're making about $10,000 a month profit. And then I said, okay, I think this is more like a business than a hobby. And so then I started going, okay, what does that even mean? What do I need to go do? Okay, I need to go create a business banking account with a checking account. I need to do a business card so I can start buying things with the business expense. I need to go create an LLC, whatever the hell that is. Like, and the reason I illustrate that is because most people think they have to have all the answers before they start. The successful entrepreneurs, and I know a lot of them, just started.
Shoot now
and
and
just
later.
started, and then you become a better business owner as you go. But you have to start with something, and then when you hit that speed bump or that roadblock in something, you're going to learn from it. Sometimes it costs you money, sometimes it costs you time, but you're going to learn from it, and then you're going to get past that problem, and you're going to move on to bigger and bigger problems. And I call them problems, but they're really challenges, because everybody thinks that they need to have the perfect idea and the perfect marketing and the perfect website. And they spend all this damn time like building stuff, and they read all the books and they listen to all the podcasts, and they're just always consuming, but they're never creating. And that's the problem, is like, you know, we call that a success zombie, you know, and I love these people. They have great intentions. They come to my events. They listen to my show. I love these people, but they need to just get someone to kick them in the ass. Like, just go start. Go create a business. Go file your business. Go create a checking account. Literally, you could do that online. It takes, what, 15 minutes? Go create a business checking account. Go buy the domain name or the website or the business that you want. That takes 5 minutes. Like, go do these things and have like a little checkbox. Okay, now, guess what? Go create a PayPal account so you can get paid. Go create a Stripe account if you don't like PayPal. Easy stuff. And literally within one day, the same day, you could have an LLC filed. You could have a checking account created. You can have a credit card processor already registered. You can have all these things that put you in business, literally, if you just want to do that today. So go do that, and don't expect to have all the answers or the best product yet or understand what your service packages are, but you can do these things.
Guys, I hope you're getting this, because this is yet another one of these really powerful moments. Because if you've never done a business yourself, if you've never had a business, there are a lot of unknowns, and you're already coming from a place that there's a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
The only way to build your self-confidence is follow through, execute.
Yes.
So, and I like how you illustrated this in your book, because I've done this for myself. I do this with people when they're like, you know, what do I do? You've got to first list out what's your overall goal, materialize it, write it down, right? And then what's my time frame? What do I want to give myself? And then along that, let me give myself some mailboxes that we talked about when I was a triathlete, right? The only way I'm going to get that finish line that's way too far away is just head to the mailbox I can see, because every time I take a step, it's getting a little bit closer. You have to feel progress, right? So, but when you come to the thinking that you have to know everything, you have to be prepared for everything, you have to know all the worst case scenarios and know exactly how to fix it and be ahead of it. If you think that's where you have to be, you're of course you're not going to start.
Yeah. Because
there is no successful entrepreneur, no SpaceX, to even step into space. What was it? $750 million for every time they would send astronauts in space, because they lost the rocket and it was not reusable.
Disposable. Yeah.
His idea was, let's make this reusable, save a lot of money, and we could actually do more missions, right? Yep. But how do you do it? Well, let's start with what we do know. So you write down literally what you know. You write down literally what you have. Then you write down what you think you need. And then you start, because it's only until you take the first step that you start to begin to build momentum. Yeah. Right? You do the LLC. You do the account. You start to then recognize, okay, you know what? I didn't realize I needed this, but I didn't realize it until I did this. Wow, look at all the progress I've made. Now you're starting to feel your self-confidence, because self-confidence is something that you can only build yourself. It's not conditional. It's not based on anything other than going, I just did that.
You can't buy it. You know, the funny thing is I give a speech sometimes on stages, and the topic of the speech is the ABCs of success. Real simple to remember. Action, belief, consistency. Actually, consistency is my key word, right? And you know, the order is purposeful. Action, belief, consistency. Most people think they need to have the belief before they take the action. Entrepreneurs take the action and they gain the belief. And then it kind of just makes a circle, right? If you take the action, you gain the belief, you become consistent, then you just become more consistent and more believable, and you keep doing this positive reinforcement circle. But the problem is everybody thinks that they need the motivation and the belief and the knowledge first before they take the action. Like, no, just go do it first. You're going to learn. You're going to take some new things. And I like that you brought up Elon Musk there with the SpaceX. Here's another takeaway, because most people are not afraid of failure. They're afraid of what their friends and their family are going to say about their failure. So it always comes back to they're thinking about what other people are going to think, potentially negative or criticize or whatever, right? So most people, when you want to be a speaker or go on a weight loss journey or start a business or anything that's outside of your wheelhouse, that's new, that people observe right away, they're so worried about calling their shots because they want that free escape door out the back that nobody even knows they tried, right? So they'll say, like, hustle hard in silence and let your words speak, your results speak for you. That's a bunch of bullshit. Like, if you don't have the accountability and proven discipline and proven results, perhaps you need to call your shot so that your external friends and family will hold you accountable. Or better yet, go hire somebody or find someone as an accountability partner to keep you in check. Like, check in every week. Go, hey, where are you at? Did you say what you're going to say? Did you do what you're going to say? You know, like, come on. Because most people think, like, well, you know, feeling a little overweight, I think I'm going to go on this weight loss journey. I need to lose 20 pounds. But they don't tell anybody. And then what happens? They get lazy in a week and they're like, man, I'm sore. I don't think this is going to work out
easy
for
out.
me. Oh, man, football injuries are acting up from high school. Like, get all the excuses. Oh, lower back pains. Like, all these. I had the same excuses in my 30s. And you quit without anybody even knowing you started, which you just lost all the accountability.
Because you really weren't all in.
Yeah. And so you're so worried about what people are going to say or think about your failure. But here's the weird thing about it. Nobody even remembers this stuff, because Elon Musk, perfect example. Everybody knows him for Tesla and SpaceX. Big brands everybody knows, like leading car manufacturer here in the United States now. Nobody even thinks about his third place, which was PayPal. PayPal was Elon Musk, and most people don't even know that. He sold it for $1 billion, and nobody even knows that. That was his third place, right? So do you think that if you're out there listening that people are going to remember your second place? My second place, nobody even knows it either. And it was nearly as big as LS1 Tech, performancetrucks.net. You can go look it up. It's still out there. 280,000 registered members. My number one was 300,000. Second best was 280. But nobody even remembers second place. See what I mean? It's like your second place could be a gold mine and just crush, but nobody's going to remember your best second place effort. So why do you think they're going to remember your failures?
I think this is how we're ingrained in failure, where we feel like it reflects our incapability, right? Doesn't matter. I mean, we're in an age where, and I've heard it said so many times, your lack of succeeding on something is not due to a lack of resources. It's due to a lack of being resourceful.
Correct.
You can learn how to do anything on YouTube. You Google something.
Literally anything.
You can build a house. You can become a plumber. You can build a rocket. You can you can figure out how to design, how to build a website, how to do anything.
We could probably become brain surgeons if someone would let us play with that.
Yeah. I mean, getting into video, I didn't know anything about video editing. And then when I stepped into different software, what do I do when I have a hiccup? YouTube. You just search.
Every time.
How to is the number one key term on YouTube, right? It's because people are looking for a video way to figure out a problem.
Every time.
So when people say, how do I do this? Did you Google it? Did you YouTube it? Well, then you're not serious.
No.
In what level did you finally lean in on yourself, right? And say, I'm going to do this, and not give yourself an out, not give yourself a plan B. When you there's a difference between I'm going to try and I'm going to do.
Oh, we hate the word try.
Oh, it doesn't exist with my children.
Even Yoda hates try. I mean, come on. There is no try.
Yeah.
Come on.
But there is that lack of, and again, it becomes from what are you doing in life to build a momentum that that no matter what you face, you're going to be able to find a way through it. David Goggins calls it the cookie jar.
Yep.
Right. You got to remind yourself of the things you're capable of, because when you face things you've never done before, you have to lean in on what you have done to prove to yourself, I can do anything. I think in life, people shortchange themselves And Mel Robbins talks about the high five theory. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
The
Very,
5 second
very
rule,
simple.
the 5 second rule and the high five rule is life changing.
Yeah. You know, I avoided her first book for a long time just because the title just seemed too simple. I was like,
Did you really?
I was like, what the hell can I learn in 5 seconds? Like, it was 5 seconds. We're like, this is some gimmicky crap. And I avoided reading that book. And even though it was ranked really high on the bestsellers list, and it's probably like the 100th personal development book I read. And now it's in my top 10 because it is simple. And she's very good at identifying really simple things and defining what the psychiatry behind those things are.
Powerful.
And understand the psychology of what she's creating. And I was like, oh, wow, this is some cool stuff, because she gets really scientific about it and why it works. Like you described the RAS. So yeah, don't disregard some of these silly book titles, like Side Hustle Millionaire. That's a silly book title to some people. They roll their eyes when they see it, but if they read it, maybe they'll learn something.
When you started the forum and you were starting to get traction, how did you get that traction? Were you in other forums, and then were you linking to it?
We knew that if we could track enough eyeballs to the website on a daily basis, that we could attract more advertising revenue. So it was free for the users, just like Facebook and Instagram are free for the users now. And I said, okay, well, how do we get more eyeballs on the website? And we would do giveaways. We'd do some free car part giveaways. We'd give $150 here, $200 there. And you had to be registered, because we got the server logs. We could see who was visiting versus logging in. We needed people with registered accounts to attract advertisers. So we had about 50% of the people just logging in, but not logging in. And so I said, we need to have a higher conversion for that. So we started doing giveaways for gift cards. And we said, if you register, you'll be on the user database. So we can actually do a random drawing from the people registered. If you're not registered, you can't win. And we already knew that there are people that weren't even logging in were spending like 6-7 hours a day sometimes on there. They're already there. They might as well create an account. Yeah. And so that's what we do. We do 2 giveaways each month, where these are for the new ones, the new registrations that month. And then here's one for all of the registrations. So you have 2 chances to win if you're new. And so by the time we started doing that, we started seeing about 80% people with accounts now. So only 20% lurkers is what we called them. And now we had enough people showing up, and near the peak of that, probably about 3 years in, we had over 100,000 people visiting per day. So try to visualize this as a small business owner, like one of your salons or things like that. Imagine 100,000 people walking in your front door every single day and spending hours a day in there. That's what I had built. And so the advertising at that time was mostly television and print media. And we said, hey, we can have real-time analytics and show you exactly who clicked on your things and all the things that were common nowadays with Facebook and Instagram. We have all these insights. We had all that back then. We just had to own the software and the servers and embed the code into that, so we could show them the dashboard. And so we proved that. And back then I used to also write for magazines. I was a photojournalism, I would help create car features and things like that and how-to articles because of my forum. And so I knew what the advertising rates were. Back then, about a half-page ad in an automotive press magazine, $800 a month is about like for a half-page black and white ad. I said, well, if we could do that for $375 and actually have more people visiting on a daily basis than they have a circulation for an entire month, we kicked the crap out of them on eyeballs, proven numbers that magazines could never back up, and less than half the price. And so when we ended up building that website, we had over 150 advertising accounts, and like General Motors, Cadillac, Nitto Tires, like Michelin, like all the big names you can imagine advertises with our website. So, that's how we're able to build the millions of dollars from just the advertising revenue. And then we started realizing, okay, I need to go build this community bigger. How do we do that? I want to strengthen the bonds of the people within my community. How do I do that? Well, we do this nowadays the same way we did back then. We get people off of their keyboards. We get them to go to actually attend live events, which in that form would be racing events or car shows in all the hotbed areas of the United States. So we go do something in LA and Detroit and Tampa and New Jersey and Texas. We would have these events to get people that were grudge talking and talking a little trash on the internet about racing each other and like who's faster and who's better driver. And we pump this up almost like UFC, and like, these two are going to show down at this event. You guys got to get off your keyboards, come hang out and check it out. And most people would show up just knowing each other by their screen names, but they would leave knowing each other by their first names and become lifelong friends. And we've seen people get married and become best friends from these communities that we built. So I knew that I had to build a strong bond If each and every person in my community could become best friends, that was my goal. Like, that's why people keep going back to Facebook, because their friends are still connected there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because we like Zuckerberg. Most people don't like him at all, but he knows that if he can make bonds and make you keep coming back to see what your friends are doing, then you're going to keep coming back. That's the only reason we keep coming back. Right?
You just extended the family get-togethers over the holidays.
Facebook is basically a bigger version of what we created 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So when you built this audience, at what point you're like, well, what's next? Like, what else can I do with this? Or was it something else completely that you just want to do different?
I think at the time when we were approached by the company to come buy us, we weren't really trying to sell the company. I mean, it was making nearly $400,000 a year profit, and we were enjoying it, and we still had all the media VIP credentials, and we got all to do the press releases for anything General Motors made.
And you still had your full-time job?
Still had a full-time job. And, you know, I was driven. Here's a weird thing about that. I was driven equally in my career and as an entrepreneur because, one, I paid for my own degree, and it took me 7 years. I mean, I worked full-time. I was waiting tables. I was a mechanic. I worked construction. So I didn't want to, air quotes, waste my degree, right? I understand now, looking back from today's perspective, that's what we call a sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
It's because I already spent the money, I already spent the time, the degree, it still hangs on the wall. They can't take it away from me. It's a sunk cost. Like, I'm not going to get a refund on that. I'm not going to get my time back. It's a sunk cost. So that's what a sunk cost fallacy is. So most people are afraid to leave their current careers because they think like, well, I've got 10 years of experience. I've got 20 years of experience. I've got this degree. I don't want to go to waste. Like, why would I want to go buy a franchise from you guys when I'm a lawyer? You know, like they make these bargaining statements in their mind that they're thinking that they're going to have to leave what they've built and it's just gone. It's poof. And I wasted it. That's what I wasted it. And even my mom would say things like, you know, I sold a company for millions of dollars. She'd ask me if I'm still looking for a job. Are you still looking for a job? Are you going to use your engineering degree? Like, my mom still says that to this day. To this day, she doesn't understand business owner. I know where it's coming from. It's like, but she's not going to understand. I'm okay with that. I said, Mom, have I ever asked you for money? No. It's like, then don't worry about my career. I'm good. Like, she sees like what I do on Facebook, but she doesn't understand it. She doesn't understand like how much money it can make, right? Because it's not like I'm showing up 8 to 5 and clocking in somewhere and then getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So that concept is kind of like, my dad gets it a lot better than she does, but I'm okay with that. Like, I know where it comes from. It's from a good place. So yeah, dude, it's just things grow and I wanted to be executive. I wanted to prove it. And I enjoyed playing with the big money. I mean, oil and gas, I was playing with hundreds of millions of dollars at my authority level. So I was building these subsea projects, like you talked about SpaceX. Well, we went deep water. So highest technology, highest material strength, and latest cutting edge developments in engineering. I got to play with these giant ships offshore. And it was all in my projects. I was managing between $100 to $500 million projects. So a lot of times people think about this from a corporate perspective. I had international diplomatic type things going on. I had different engineering. I had 3-year, 4-year projects. I had teams of 75 people. So I had a lot of like cool things and levers and buttons and things I could play with that I was under control of. So a lot of the things I learned from large corporations at that level make small business very simple to me. You know, most people look at it from the bottom looking up, like, oh man, I'm on my first 7-figure business. I'm like, cool. Like I help companies that made $1 billion in 1 year. 1 year, we did a startup. One company made $1 billion revenue in 1 year, like awarded contracts. So everything else below that just seems really small to me. And I got really comfortable talking about big numbers. So that was a perspective change that I didn't understand, because even in my late 20s, when I finally started working as a junior project engineer, I remember my supervisor at the time telling me to go fill out this purchase order, get this thing ordered. And like, here's the specs, like just fill out, here's the form. I was like, okay, cool. I'm new, typing in this form, taking the spec sheet and putting it in there. And I get to the price and it was like $1 million. And I'm like, whoa, I'm about to buy something that's $1 million, like the Dr. Evil, $1 million. Like it felt like such a huge thing to me, like perspective, right? And then fast forward 20 years, I'm buying things that are hundreds of millions of dollars and signing things that are, you know, $1 million. Like that's small budget. Like I have 3 levels down below me approving that level now, right? So your perspectives change. And it's weird. It's really weird. But I think that if more people starting at the bottom could look forward and go, hey, your perspectives are really small right now. Like, I'm proud of you making that 7-figure business. That's cool. But the things I've learned was hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm going to try to simplify it the best I can to get you to that next level and to the next level.
At our recent quarterly meeting, I'm not really sure. Liz does about everything. But the whole approach, and I talked to the last quarter on about raising your internal temperature. Mm-hmm. And this one was about the difference of 1 degree. 211 degrees, just hot water. At 212, creates vapor. Yep. Vapor can power a locomotive. Vapor can power a city. Vapor, when you go from a 1 degree difference, 1 degree changes in anything that you do. But I think still a lot, and you touched on it. Mm-hmm. If you're only used to writing a check for $10, $20 is going to seem like a lot of money.
Yeah.
$100 is going to seem like a lot of money. So if you want to write that check for $100 and you're only able to write the check for $10, get around people that are writing $10,000 checks.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you want to believe that's possible and you want to be able to have the money in that, because you don't want to write a blank rubber check, but if you want to be able to have the capacity and the capability to do it.
And the belief.
You've got to surround yourself with people that have already done it, mm-hmm. so that it shows you what's possible.
Yeah.
That's why, like, we do this, not only for our team internally. You know, look, you hear from mom and dad all the time. Mm-hmm. It's mom and dad.
Yeah.
But when you can hear it from other people and really explain, you start to really get more empowered, more believing in yourself even more, because you're shaking the hands of these people. Yeah. You know, you're able to see that these people are real. An author, this is a real human, you know, that worked a corporate job and then still found a way to create to where the corporate job was not even necessary anymore. Yeah. But you still love to do it.
It's personal. It was personal goals. It was being somewhat of the overachiever type. Is like, I could do both. And here, that was a good question, because like people go, why didn't you quit and go full time with your business? Mm-hmm. The answer is different for everybody, but mm-hmm. I was already number one in the market share, right? I already saturated that market. I was number one. I had hundreds of other competitors trying to take us down, but we were so far ahead that we were number one. So I'd built the right processes and systems and the right people in place that I didn't even have to manage that business anymore. So that was purely passive. I enjoyed it as a consumer. I would log in and act like a user and go back to answering my questions, like helping people and posting photos and building my project cars and being on TV and doing all these things. Like, I was enjoying the perks of it, right? I wasn't doing the day-to-day operations of that business anymore. And had I quit and gone full-time, let's say, like, I could have done that thing in 15 minutes a day, answering questions and just checking on it, make sure things were running right. If I would have devoted 8 hours a day to it, it wouldn't have increased my revenue at all, like zero, because we're already number one and we already had the authority in the industry. So time didn't make sense. I was like, well, I could just keep working this job and make a couple $100,000 extra a year doing this job, doing things that are fun. But I was also learning, because like most people, especially if you're working for a job, understand that there's a lot of good things and bad things. You should be taking mental notes and maybe physical notes of how they're doing things in operations in their business. My first job was McDonald's, age 15. And while most people were at that age were bitching about having to wear a paper hat and polyester clothes and like, this sucks and I smell like a French fry, I was paying attention to all the systems and the efficiencies. Like, here I am working for the number one fast food franchise in the world, and there's a reason they're number one. So let me try to figure out what those clues are. The kitchen layout. Why is it efficient? Like, what are the timers? What are these different fryers? Why do they have all these different things? Like, why do they have literally like different size ketchup and mustard containers for the different size burgers? Like, it's mustard and it's ketchup, but why can't we just use the same one? It's because they're different portion controls. Mm-hmm. For the small cheeseburgers, use the small one. For the big one, use the bigger one. It's like, wow, that's how efficient they are. Like, they do little things like that to make themselves highly efficient or fast. It's all about speed. Like, someone places the order, as soon as you push total on the register, the timer would come up on the second window. And if you didn't get them out within a certain amount of time, it would keep you a scorecard. And if your scorecard was bad, it would affect your raises and your pay. So I was like, okay, I'm learning. Like, think about, like, I remember this shit from when I was 15, 16 years old, right? Mm-hmm. You don't think that I took some of those things and seeded those into the businesses I created and the efficiencies and the process? even when I was working for a major corporate like Chevron, I was taking things I learned from McDonald's to make things improved. So if you're out there working for somebody, pay mental attention. Like, what are the things you're supposed to learn while you're there? Even if it's the crappiest job and you got the shittiest boss, like, what are the things you're supposed to learn while you're there? If you're going to be there, might as well figure something out. What can you take from there? Maybe it's the crappy boss that you don't want to be like. Like, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to act like that. I don't want to behave like that. I don't want to communicate like that. You learn something, you take that with you.
When you're in a job, you have that job because people had built something. Something had worked. If you have any aspiration to be anything, look at where you are, because there's lessons there, right? You tapped into that's part of that, also that entrepreneurial mindset. If you go from an employee to an entrepreneur mindset, you're going to look at what you do daily completely different. Absolutely. You're going to show up different, right? If you're an entrepreneur, let's say you're a contractor of a business, you want to keep that contract because you're a 1099. They could choose anybody, which means you got to really work that account, make sure that client's always happy because you're replaceable. So are employees. But as a contractor, as an entrepreneur, your livelihood's at stake, and you can be easily just cut and no questions asked, right? If people showed up to their job and stopped being the 8 to 5, but looked at as an entrepreneur, that when you walk into your cubicle, your cashier, your office, and you go, I'm the CEO of this. I own this. And you really take ownership. You take Jocko Willink's extreme ownership approach to it. You have full accountability. It might be somebody else's fault, but if it's your responsibility and you're the fixer of it and you're going to grow this, you then take it a step further. If you're an entrepreneur and you got this idea, you got a skill set, you want to make money from it, and somebody now goes, you know what, I'm going to invest in you, let's say $65,000 a year. Just like you walked onto Shark Tank. You have this idea. This is what you can do. You just need one of them to believe in you enough to invest in you, 65 grand. Now, do you want more of that shark's money? Of course you do. Do you want to be able to leverage what that shark can do for you? Right? Of course you do. Then why in the hell would you show up to work and give bare minimum, show up 8 to 5, and then look for what are your 2 weeks vacation, and then milk the system as much as you can, and yet still show up, do the bare minimum, and then show up a year later asking, well, am I going to get my raise? So in reverse, if you then look at it like being on Shark Tank, and you want to have more opportunity, now you can accelerate your opportunity. You just got $65,000 in cash. I'm going to blow this up, right? You take advantage of the people that hired you, that invested in you, and you go, you know what, today I'm going to earn this. Because if you don't wake up every day and go, what I've been given, I can either earn, or I'm going to give it away to somebody else that will. Yeah. That's it. That's the only approach we can have.
Somebody else wants it more than you.
Somebody else does. Yeah, there is somebody out there looking at what you have that you're pissing and moaning about, that's their dream job.
Totally.
That's their dream. You have it.
I was the best floor mopper at McDonald's, man. I loved it.
Hey.
It's like, hey, if I'm gonna be out here mopping these floors, it's gonna be done right. I mean, what is a phrase that if you do more than you're being paid to do, soon enough you'll be paid more to do more than you're doing.
Yeah. This raises a question, and I read this in your book. And I think this is where people may get skewed. I love people's take on stuff like this. So if you're going to do something, find something that you have a passion for, because you have a real interest. Because at some point, what you have a passion for, there's going to be a day where it's going to be hard.
Always.
It's not going to be fun.
It's always hard no matter which avenue you go, easy or passionate.
Even if you do what you're passionate about, it's still not going to be easy.
Never. And it shouldn't be.
So, which my next question is, passion is an emotion.
Yeah.
Right? And it's typically conditionally driven. How do people lean in on some of their passion about something they enjoy, and then lean in to find a way to monetize that into becoming a living at something? Maybe it's full-time, maybe it's part-time, but how can people responsibly lean in on a passion? How could you direct somebody to go, oh, I'm really passionate about this? What would be those words of advice for them if let's say they have 3 real passions in life?
I mean, first you got to be realistic about your passions, because some of them aren't really good business ideas.
Ooh, that's a good nugget right there.
Maybe there are a lot of limitations in there, or maybe there's only 10 people that would buy that product or service from you. And you can't charge enough to make a living, right? So be realistic. I actually cover that in some of the book of how to find the best potential business idea. It could be, maybe you have more than one passion. Hopefully everybody does, right? And mine just happened to be cars. So I pursued that really hard. And when you don't have passion for what you build or sell, the problem is you're going to get passed up by someone who does. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at this from purely from an opportunist standpoint, like, oh, realtors make a lot of money, so I'm going to go get a real estate license and be a realtor because they make a lot of money. I've seen these $1 million listing things on TV and it looks really easy, and I want that lifestyle. So you go do that, but you don't have any passion for real estate. You don't have any passion for looking at properties and assessing properties and understanding deals or dealing with customers. Like, you just want the result, but you don't want to do the actual work because you don't have passion for it. Well, hate to tell you, you're going to get circles run around you by people who love what they do. Like, they love to show properties and they love to see the excitement of handing those keys to the new buyers. You know, so it's, you got to have that passion to get you through those tough times, like you said, because you will have them. Everybody will have tough times. And here's the other thing is that most people think that they need motivation to go do something. You know, they'll get on Instagram, they're sitting on the pot in the morning and they're scrolling, maybe they're looking for those motivational memes and things to get them going for the day. Like, oh, that was a good one. Double like that one and throw some hearts on that one. A flame emoji, flame. Oh man, that got me. Hey, Jocko, like, I see you, man. I see you. Like, you know, they're always looking for motivation, but that's what average people do. That's what average people do.
We're hoarders of motivation.
Successful people don't need that shit. They look at the result that they're going to get based on the actions that they put in. So successful people don't need motivation because they're focused on what the result is going to be. And they are okay with delayed gratification. They're not wanting something instantaneous. They're waiting. They're like, hey, a year from now, I'll be there. 2 years, 5 years, I'll be there. I'm okay with that. It needs this, your mailbox analogy when you're running. Like, that's a brilliant analogy. You're just running from mailbox to mailbox and mailbox. And you realize there's going to be a bunch of them after that. Successful people see motivation as optional because a lot of times they're willing to do and execute at a high level the things that they know they need to do, but they don't feel like doing. You know, like here's one that's a real common example for me: the gym. I go to the gym at least 5 days a week. Literally half the time, I don't feel like going, and I could just sit there at the desk or go take a nap or just go, I don't feel like going today. I'll just go harder tomorrow. That's what most people say. I'll just go harder tomorrow.
I'll do more cardio tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll make up for it. So they gamble with themselves and they don't go, but
they negotiate themselves out of progress.
Totally. And then the next day they say the same thing and they go 5 days without going. Right. So here's how I mental hack that. I say, Tony, you've been working out since you were 14 years old. Have I ever regretted leaving the gym ever in my life? And the answer is no. Even when I've injured myself at the gym, I've never regretted having gone that day. Most of the time I didn't want to be there, maybe because your football coach or something's riding your ass, but you never feel bad about leaving the gym. So if I know that, one, I don't feel like going right now, but I know in an hour and a half when I'm leaving, I'll be feeling pretty good that I went for some reason. There's got to be some physiological reason, maybe an endorphin release or just something that changes my mental state. Like maybe I just feel like, that felt good. I'm so glad I came. Like I've never left the gym a single time regretting having gone. So if I can just think about that, I'll go.
Remember I was doing an Ironman and it was in Panama City Beach, Florida. It was 109 degrees outside, not a cloud in the sky, not a breeze. Oh, it was just brutal. And on that run, about halfway through, my body hit the wall. And I got the chills. I got the shivers. And it's hot.
That's weird. Yeah.
It is not, that is not natural. That's
your
not,
body saying, what the?
Yeah. You're done.
Yeah.
And I was only halfway in the run. And my nipples were bloody. My shoes were pink from the blood from my heels. Every time my foot hit the pavement, I just felt this jarring, just ripple effect through my body and my spine. And I began to question, right? And this is the day that the mailbox became what it is for me. That's when it hit, because I couldn't see the finish line. It was too far away. It was quiet. At that distance, you don't see many runners. I was getting past, but I went from a great pace to a shuffle. Yeah, damn near should have just given me a walker with tennis balls in the bottom of it. Yeah. It was slow.
Yeah,
and every time my foot hit the pavement, it was giving me a reason to stop. And the aid stations were every half mile, and they had a van at each one of them. Now they had fruit, whatever, they had drinks, water, fruit juice, Cokes, whatever, but they had a van. And if you wanted to tap out, they'd rip your number and they'd take you back to transition where the finish line
right back in the AC on the little gurney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I literally had to scream at myself because my body was physically going towards that van, every aid station. And when I started, because I competed as a cyclist from the age of 11, I got injured when I was 21 in the gym. L2, L3 slipped, just doing lightweight workouts in the gym by myself in the small town, and ended my cycling career. And again, over 100 pounds within about a year. Had a corporate job, and I had aspiration to being a pro cyclist and doing something cool, but that was over. And so I finally got to a point where I needed to make a change. And I realized when I looked in the mirror one day and I've been over to tie my shoes, I couldn't breathe. I realized you're not an injured cyclist, you're just fat.
Dude, I've been there.
Yeah?
I've been there.
Like you can't wear the shirt, the pants anymore. Dude. You're not who you think you are.
You start doing the polos, so you don't have to tuck them in.
Yeah.
Dude, I discovered that.
Yeah.
I sold my company, I was 34, and I got pretty lazy between 35 to 39.
Yeah.
I started hanging around with other people that would validate my excuses for being out of shape. Like, oh, the football injury, the lower back, shoulder, like we can all have all kinds of pains, right? We can all pull back some historical pains and scars and things like that. And when you're hanging around with a bunch of people that just do that same thing and they're all kind of overweight dudes themselves, like you're not gonna be pushed to do anything better. But for me, I remember being in that age range and close to probably 39, I think, because 40 is that milestone age that we get into. And I remember being late for a meeting one day at work, right? I rode the bus to downtown Houston, and the bus was late. It was traffic or something. And I was like, shit, I'm late for this meeting. And usually I would walk in the lobby and take the escalator or the elevator up, but there was a long line of people waiting by the elevator. I was like, damn it. But there's an escalator that goes up 2 floors in the lobby of this building. I was like, there's nobody on the escalator. I'll just kind of get up that thing real quick and beat the elevator. Guys, I was walking up a moving escalator and I was winded after 2 floors. I was winded. I was starting to sweat through my shirt thinking I had to head into this meeting and thinking like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I can't even walk up a moving escalator 2 floors without getting winded. And that, I still remember that. See, that was that moment.
We all have that. And that's what brought me back when I wanted to quit. And I told myself when I stepped off, because I said, you know what, at this moment, this is not me.
No.
I had still massive chronic back pain. I mean, I'd be walking across a parking lot and I would just collapse. My legs would give out, right? It was that sciatic getting pinched.
Oh, yeah. Here, I want to get you on this one while you're in this mindset.
Yeah.
Did you still feel like an athlete inside your mind?
You bet I did.
But every time you looked in the mirror, what did you see?
My injury.
I was the same way.
I'm just like out of commission for the minute.
Because as men, especially, we know like our bench press records and our squat records and our 40 dash. Like we know all these metrics from probably high school and looking at you 40-year-old plus dudes that are still talking about your Division I athlete days. Like if you're not in that shape anymore, shut up. Right. Yeah. So we all know what our personal records were. Yeah. And in our minds, we could still do that. I could still go bench 300 pounds. I could still go do that. And you've never been in the gym like in the last 5 years. Like, yeah, right. It ain't even close. And it's really humbling to finally step foot back into the gym and maybe, okay, well, I'm gonna do some warm ups. I'm gonna get on bench press. I'll throw 135 on there and just do 10 reps to warm up. And you like struggle to lift the 135. And you're like, what the hell? Like I used to bench 300 pounds. Like, and then you start doing the mental math. Man, I'm going to have to do a lot of work just to get back to zero. I think this is what keeps most people from getting back into fitness is that when you're average weight, average size, that's zero. That's your average. You're zero. If you're overweight, it's negative. If you're in shape, it's positive. Most people, they said like 70% of our country is obese or overweight right now. Yeah. So they're starting from a negative perspective because they remember when they were thinner or better looking athlete or whatever, you're younger. And so they realized, like, holy shit, I got to go spend months of dedicated effort just to get to zero. That doesn't sound like a very exciting journey, just to get to zero. And then I can enjoy the benefits on the positive side. I think that's the mental thing that keeps most people from starting, man. Just knowing that there's a sheer amount of work just to get to zero.
I'm going to reference Mel Robbins again.
Yeah.
Because I think her very practical tactics to get your mind in the condition and in a pathway to go from negative, from where you used to be, or where obesity is a crazy thing because it happens over time, and you don't realize until you look at a photo of yourself a year later, or from a year before,
or somebody
5 years.
sees you that hasn't seen you in a couple of years.
Yeah, or they don't recognize you.
Oh,
right.
Ouch.
Because it's a progressive thing, and discipline is perishable.
Yeah.
Kind of like lettuce.
Yeah.
Mel's approach, and a friend of mine said this once, and it was incredibly powerful. He said, how often you can look at yourself in the mirror can determine how confident you are in yourself. You take Mel Robbins with her high five approach, right? If you when's the you can't ever be depressed when you high five somebody.
Correct.
In that instant, in that moment, you felt empowered. High five, not because you did something great, but because you were just acknowledged for being a good person.
Yeah.
Right? Good job. Good for you. Proud of you. High five. Bam, you just feel instantly better.
We learn that as kids.
But if you're brushing your teeth, what do we look at? Look at the sink. We look at everything else but ourselves. Or if we are looking at ourselves, we're judging ourselves.
Always.
Based on who we used to be. Right? I hate this. I wish this was better. God, I need to lose weight. Man, I need to get back in the gym. I need to eat better. Oh, I just feel horrible. And then all you're doing is now focusing on the things you are unhappy with. But because that's what we're focusing on, that's what we're going to repeat and recycle.
Always.
Because that's what's also familiar and comfortable. And we're going to go for the path of least resistance, right? Of what we're familiar with. But with her high-fiving, and when I heard her talk about this, and I'm going to put it to test.
You're going to do it?
I've been doing it.
Oh, okay.
Since I saw her interview on Impact Theory.
Okay.
And then I got her book.
So just so the listeners know, it means you're literally high-fiving yourself in the mirror.
Every time you go in the bathroom.
Yourself in the eye, and you're high-fiving yourself in the mirror every morning.
And what I do in the morning when I'm brushing my teeth, when I'm getting ready, I'm looking at myself in the eye, because I learned this in boot camp. Drill instructor gets in your face, and they tell you to look straight ahead. Okay. Well, that drill instructor gets in front of your face, and that old Smoky's right there in your forehead, and they're literally looking at you. They're yelling at you, or they're spitting on you. It's scary. But the moment you make eye contact, do not eyeball me. Well, how the F am I supposed to look straight ahead when you're right in front of me and not look at you? So I learned, one of the things that I learned about that experience was life's going to be in front of you. All the things that happen to you is going to be right there in front of you. But you've got to learn to take a spot and look through it. That's the only way you're going to be able to remove that energy. Because if you ever notice in conversations when you're looking at somebody, I'll look at your mouth, I'll look at your nose, I'll pick something to look at you. But the moment we look eye to eye just right now, there's an energy exchange between people.
Absolutely.
And you tap into that. But we never tap into that with ourselves. And we look at life and where we are. We could be happy, unfulfilled, could be broke, could be feeling like life is hopeless. Well, when was the last time you looked at yourself dead in the eye and said, I'm proud of you for all that you've come through? And then high five yourself in the mirror and say, let's go crush today. You do that every time you look at yourself in the mirror. Within 3 days, you'll notice a temperature change within yourself, and now a real legitimate belief in who you are and your own capability.
Yeah, I love it.
I tested it. I
Simple.
thought, okay, what's the worst that could happen? High five myself, get a little bit better. Okay.
Yeah.
But she said it's going to create that habit every time you get in front of a mirror. I'll be damned, man. Like it, and I'm pretty positive person about myself, right? But life's handed you a lot of things you got to go through. And I thought, there is no downside to this.
No.
I'm going to give it a shot. And man, I'm going to tell you, like it is, and I'm a practical guy. Don't give me theory. Don't give me all that kind of BS. But when she especially laid out the scientific part about what that does within your brain and chemically, it works. So if there's things you want to apply in your life, you take these lessons and you just put them to work, execute. Don't get the idea. Don't listen to motivation, but you execute on it. Because what's the downside? There is none.
There isn't any.
What's the downside of leaning in on an idea for yourself about creating a side hustle? You're not going to know everything. You may not have everything.
In fact, you shouldn't know everything. Just go for it. Just try it.
That's key right there.
Just try it. If it fails, try again. I mean, most people have this weird belief that they got to have a grand slam on their first try of anything, right? Going all in, and they're hoping to step up to the plate, hit a grand slam, and then become Elon Musk like next day. It's like, it doesn't work that way, right? It's
why do you think people, that fear of failure, right? That really holds a lot of people back. And
it's always the fear of potential criticism and what people say. So it's really easy surface level excuse to say, I'm afraid of failing. No, you're afraid of what other people are going to think or say about your failure. That's the real truth. Nobody likes to talk about that, though.
So, okay, let me ask you this question. The people that could criticize you, are those the right people to have in your life?
It depends on their intent. Some people are just shit bags and they're just bad people and they don't belong in your life, right? I mean,
they don't want to see you succeed further than themselves.
I mean, we all know the crab in the bucket mentality. I won't have to go into that story, but I've seen that at every socioeconomic level of my life. It's not something that you outgrow. It's not like someday you're going to make a certain amount of money that those people are going to disappear from that human nature. It's just the way it is, right? Because here's the reality is that regardless of what level you consider yourself at this moment, if you're listening to this, just your snapshot of where you're at. What's your economic and your lifestyle? Like, where are you at, right? Look around. I bet your friends are probably 70, 80% in that same range. You're all comfortable together, hanging out on that plateau, right? And the truth is that no matter what plateau you're currently hanging out on, half the people on that plateau with you have greatly overshot their own beliefs and potential for what they have achieved in their life. So they feel lucky to be there. They feel like, wow, I hope nobody discovers me because I'm really like on this lower level over here and I figured out enough stuff and I can hang out here. So they already have those insecurities thinking that they don't really deserve there, or maybe how did I get here, right? And so a lot of that's based on the characterizations that you have based on what your parents have achieved also. Like if your parents were big failures and then you became successful, then you look back on them and go, man, I should have never done better than my mom and dad because, they're my mom and dad. How did I do better than them? So they have a lot of self-doubt. It's like psychological stuff. And so now they see you over there and you're going, hey, this is a cool plateau and all, but I want to build a ladder and climb to the next one. So you go over there and you start doing things to climb that next ladder. You're assembling the ladder. You're learning new skills. You're doing things that are uncomfortable. You're evolving. You're improving. You're building a stronger network of people that are at that next level. Well, half the people up there will be like, hey, that's cool. Like they give you the golf clap because they get it. The other half will be like, hey man, you sure you want to do that? It seems kind of risky. Like, they start saying little things that are subconsciously, passively aggressive, right? To try to keep you at that level because they want you to be there because they want to hang out with you. And they can't understand why you're wanting to do more. Like imagine me in my early 40s telling my car guy friends that I wanted to go learn how to become a public speaker, write a best-selling book, launch a podcast, leave my oil and gas career behind and go try to impact the world. Like most of them thought I was crazy. Like, you want to do what? Like, you want to be like Tony Robbins or what, what does that even mean? Like, I was like, no, I have a purpose now. I have a reason that I'm doing this. And I can't explain it right now, but I envision what this is going to be. And I've always been good at evolving and doing things that I just see, and I'm going to go all in and doing those things. Like you and I talked about before the show, like we don't like to half-ass things. We just don't get involved. As soon as we know that we have the avenue, the opportunity, the resources, the knowledge to go all in, we do, like regardless of what that is in your life. So I said, I got to go do this. And this is something that I feel a calling to. And some of the people made fun of that stuff. They said, like they get on their tech circles and screenshot my really crappy videos at the time because I was trying to learn. And I knew I sucked at it. I was willing to suck at it because I was a beginner.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I've always been that way. I think that's another thing that keeps people from trying something new, whether that's doing videos or being in social media or starting a business or going on a fitness journey, like something that's new to you. Most people, especially as we get older, we have a little bit of authority or experience at a certain level. Maybe we're highly compensated at that level. Mm-hmm. And we think that we can just do a lateral jump across to this new thing and be held at the same regard. We think that we're entitled to that. We deserve that. Maybe you're a really good engineer and you go, you know what, but I'm going to go be a singer. So I'm going to go do some singing lessons and I'm going to go be a singer. Well, if you're a highly compensated, well-regarded engineer, some people really believe that it's a lateral move. Like, I'm going to go be a highly compensated, like really proficient singer now. Mm-hmm. They're not realistic. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to be willing to start at the very bottom and suck at it, because you will, if not, you're going to get your ego checked. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have to just follow the process to get back to the top of whatever you want to get. Most people want to skip that part. And, you know, I'll tell you, like, I joined Toastmasters here in the Woodlands 4 years ago. And that was one of the suggestions, like the Google thing. Like, how do you become a better public speaker? I had stage fright. I didn't like doing what I do. Go join Toastmasters, hire a speaking coach. And I said, okay, well, those are only once a week. How am I going to improve my speaking and my communication and learning how to speak with cadence and influence, all these things, like with one meeting a week, like maybe speaking 2 minutes a meeting. That's it. Mm-hmm. Like, how am I going to improve? I said, okay, well, if I learn something in this meeting, I'll just go do videos on social media and practice what I learned for the entire week. And then when I get to the next meeting, I'll learn something new and I'll do videos. And that's what I did for a year. I did a video every single day for over a year, and they sucked initially. And guys, I would sit in my truck after work, put my little phone on the holder, and I would do videos, and I would take 10 takes just to do a 1 minute video, just something I was going to post on Instagram or Facebook. I would take 10 takes, and to show you how much stage fright or how uncomfortable that was for me, if I saw a human walk through that parking lot anywhere, it could be 4 rows over, if I just saw a human, I would stop. I would wait till I no longer saw anybody, and then I would do it again. And I would take 10 takes, and maybe the number 8 would be good, and I'd post it. That's literally the best I could do that day. And I did that for months. And I joined the Toastmasters, and I started showing up, making myself raise my hand. I'd sit in the front instead of the back because people don't engage when they hang out in the back. I said, I'm going to make myself really uncomfortable and go do that. And that's what it's going to take. So I was willing to suck at it, knowing that that's the best I could do. And it improved. And within 6 months, I won my very first public speaking competition. And then I went another round, and I won that one, and I won another round. I actually got 4th place in all of Houston in 6 months of just dedicated studying it, raising my hand, improving, hiring a coach, learning how to tell stories. Like, these are the things that are way outside my comfort zone, but I started to inspire people along the way because they kind of knew why I was doing it, and they saw me improving. They're like, wow, you're like getting better at this. It's like, thanks. I'm putting a lot of work into this. And so that's the things that you can go learn the new skills. And the thing that I had a fear of public speaking, and then I eventually became the president of that Toastmasters Club and helped dozens and dozens and dozens of people overcome their fears. But I always, once in a while, we'd see those ego people that thought that they should be lateral. They'd come in. Like, people would come in with their tie on from work, their corporate or executive level. Oh, I'm here because my board of directors said I needed to work on my education skills. I don't think I need that. You know, I'm a CEO of this company, and but I'm here because, they suggested it. And we'd do their intro speech, maybe a couple weeks in, they would get humbled because we give feedback. Mm-hmm. Here's what you did well. Here's what you could improve on. Here's what we think you should really be focused on. They didn't like that because they're used to being the boss, the CEO, the guy at the top. When the board of directors and your investors are telling, like, you need to go work on your improvement in your communication skills, like, you should listen to that constructively because they're there for good intent, right? They're critics, but they're there for the right intent. And those people wouldn't come back. I've seen it time and time again. Those people would come in, they'd get a dose of their own ego, and they would just not come back. Very few would be like, you know what? Thank you. I'm going to improve. And they would stick with it, and they would improve. And within 6-7 months, because they're high performers, they would actually be exceptional speakers by then. See what I mean? So
we master what we repeat.
Always.
I mean, if you're going to put practice in, to be a better public speaker, which you did every single day to do videos, you became better because you repeated the process of getting better. But if you repeat, I'll never be good at it over and over again in your head, well, you're going to master that. You're going to master being a person with no self-confidence because you're repeating that message inside your head and you're not doing anything to get out of it other than reminding yourself, I'm not good enough.
You believe what you think. And it's, I would have never thought, like literally I was becoming a public speaker just in case I got interviewed, because if that book did well, maybe I would get interviewed. And I just want to be prepared. So I started doing that while I was writing the book. And now I've been on TV and I've been on radio and I've been on stages with thousands of people. Like everything that I was fearing actually came true, but I had to prepare myself and change to become the right person to go carry that book. And I think most people want to write the book, but they don't want to become the right person to carry the story.
That story is a gift.
Yeah.
You know, but it also, victory comes to those that are prepared. So when people step into a new venture or wanted to do something different in their life, too often they go to the circle that they've been plateaued with as with the hope that they're going to encourage them.
Yeah.
When typically they don't get that encouragement, which that's their expectation, but that's not what's given, which a lot of times takes the wind out of their sail and they fall back in line to the comfort of the plateau. What do you encourage people to do to help them? Because that could be their homies, could be their friends, their circle, could even be family.
Could be your parents.
Could be. How would you encourage people? If they're looking to do something different in life, A, who should they listen to? B, how do they change that? If they need to change their circle, how do they do that?
This is a good one. And I think anyone who's done anything that outside of their norm has experienced this. Let's say at Facebook, let's say that maybe you are a entry-level entrepreneur and you go, hey, I started a new business, right? And initially you're going to get a bunch of people going, yeah, congrats, and golf clapping and thumbs up. And you're like, look at these people. They're here for me. They're my boys. Like, I got a support network. This shit's going to be easy. And then 2 weeks later, like nobody's liking your post anymore. Mm-hmm. You're like, what happened? When I first announced it, everybody was excited and happy. Like they're all saying congrats. And I'm only 2 weeks in and nobody's even liking my posts anymore, or not even looking and watching my videos anymore. Like you start thinking internally at that point. You're like, is it me? Mm-hmm. Does my business suck? Or my videos really crappy? Could be yes, right? Could be, but immediately go to you. Like, did I piss people off? Am I too annoying? Am I posting too much? Like, it's always like, what am I doing wrong? Mm-hmm. That's where you fail, right? Most people quit. That period of, from what I've seen from thousands of entrepreneurs now going through this, that's about a 2 to 3 month window. That first 2 to 3 months is when most people will quit. I would say if I put a number, 80% will quit 2 to 3 months. They'll go really hard for month 1 and 2 because that's easy. That's the first 2 mailboxes in your race, right? I got this. I'm going to win. You might even be winning to the first or second mailbox, right? And then people quit supporting you and it gets quiet. And you're like, oh man, something wrong. I'm not cut out for this. I should just go get another job or whatever, right? You start negatively thinking. But here's what you don't understand. This is what's going to get you through this. People are watching you at equal levels, but they're watching you in silence. And it's because we're so used to people quitting 2 to 3 months in that we're going to make you earn our support and attention by making sure that you can stay the course for enough time that we feel confident that you're legit, you really mean what you say, and you're really putting in the actions that you say you're going to do. Mm-hmm. So they will literally watch you in silence for a period of about 6 months. They won't like your posts. They're watching them, but they won't like them. They won't respond to them. And if you show up every single day with the same level of vigor and excitement and really talk about what your business is and how you're changing the world or whatever that is, like you're not pitching, don't be the pitch person. Like you want to educate, inspire, or entertain, those 3. The business and all that stuff comes in as a indirect, like that's the value creation. You're teaching people things, you're entertaining people, you're educating people, you're inspiring people, taking them on your journey. You're showing them the good and the bad, not all the good stuff, not the highlight reel, like the real legit stuff. And what's going to happen over time is people are like, you know what? Tony just keeps showing up and showing the hard stuff. He's being vulnerable here. He's showing the wins. I'm seeing momentum pick up. He hasn't wavered at anything. He's teaching people even if they're not showing up. I think he actually means what he says. I think he actually believes in what he's building. They'll like your post. They'll start liking it again because you're showing that consistency over 6-7 months. A year in, showing up every day, they're starting to respond again. Hey man, that was a great message in that video. Thanks for putting that out there. I really needed to hear that today. And they're saying, oh man, that's some good feedback. Hey, maybe you could do a video on this. They're starting to be more engaging on your socials, right? They know what you're about. You've been putting a solid year in. You showed up, rain or shine. Didn't care if people liked it or if it was just your mom liking your post, right? 18 months in, people are starting to tag their friends in. Hey, Michael David, you got to come check Tony out. Like, this is cool stuff he's putting out. I think you would like to get this message. Hey, let's show that episode. I listened to it, man. You should go listen to this episode. Like, people are starting to refer their friends, and now things are starting to grow. You're starting to see real momentum. 2 years in of consistently doing this, whether people show up or not, because you have to have that purpose, that passion. You're starting to get on social media, and you're being tagged around the internet by people you've never heard of or never met before, right? And so you're like, well, that's cool. Like, guess my message is getting out there. I have thousands of listeners to my show, and I don't know them. They never show their face. They don't join my group, but they're there, right? And so that's a 2-year period of like, if you want to build your personal brand, you got to show up every damn day. And I'm not saying like 24/7 hustle and grind. I'm saying, hey, carve out 10 minutes of your day to make content by educating, inspiring, and entertaining. Just that's it. Even on the weekends. If you do this, that little tactic, and it's very simple but difficult at the same time. It's very simple because it's easy to understand. You got to have the discipline and the will to go do that. I've helped out thousands of entrepreneurs now build their brands, regardless of their industry. It doesn't even matter. Realtors to small business owners, whatever, by just doing those simple video challenges and principles and making themselves really uncomfortable, investing in themselves to get the skills, and just people will notice that you're improving. They're like, oh, this is cool. Like, and the thing is that when your audience sees you improving and start getting momentum, it inspires them to believe what's possible for themselves because they can remember back when you sucked at it. And they're like, oh man, I could probably do better than Tony when he started. Like, he really sucked. But now look at him like, holy shit. Like, it's not even the same person. You don't think that's going to inspire them to believe what's possible for themselves? You don't think that they're going to not want to be a part of this train and go on that journey with you? Yeah. That's the indirect thing I didn't count on, but that's what happened.
Motivation is like milk for babies, right? Yeah. It'll get you going, right? But discipline is what keeps you going. That motivation part is what gives you the little fires, the igniters, the ones that kind of, get you up to speed. But that month and a half, 2 months in, what that's doing is it's also testing your own commitment to yourself. Are you willing? Are you really serious? Dude. Right? Yeah, you want to lose 20 pounds. Well, day 3 in, you're about ready to raid the pantry. And what I love about Mel Robbins, and I'm going to reference her again, is this 5-second rule. Read the book. Look her up. Because this 5-second rule, she came up with this in the darkest period of her life. Yeah. And she didn't want to get out of bed. She had 3 kids. She had to get ready. She had bills, foreclosure notices. Her husband's restaurant was failing. Her whole career come cratering down. And she was watching a rocket go off, and there's the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jump out of bed.
So she literally, and it wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the process of counting backwards that disrupts the natural pattern in our brain. And it silences all the noise. And so I would begin to, she said she would begin to count back from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then get out of bed.
I've used that. I've used that
immensely powerful.
That method many times to push the record button in my life. Many times. Because of that book.
It's so simple, but it's so incredibly powerful. Yep. That you just, if it's not something you're comfortable with, if you're about to raid the pantry, I want better for myself. Am I really hungry? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, walk away.
I've also used it in networking situations. Maybe I'm at a conference and there's a bunch of people that I admire. And Where in the past, I would have been a little bit more nervous about even trying to approach them and just hope you hope that there's two ships passing in the night conversation type situation.
Mm-hmm.
But now if I see somebody I want to meet, I actually will do that countdown and actually just go introduce myself. Imagine how that could have been so much more beneficial when you're a single dude or a single woman, like just to be able to go break the ice,
mm-hmm.
start a conversation with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish I would have learned that 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. You just ask.
Just ask.
You put in the work. This show that we've done, we've been incredibly fortunate to have guests like you and others that have been in this lineup. We're not even 10 episodes in. I've had you, Marcus Luttrell, had Chad Prather on. Let's see, Austin Dean from the St. Louis Cardinals. That never happens with most people that do a podcast.
No.
But we believed in the idea and we thought, who do we know? And then let's just start from there. And you ask.
Yeah. Worst they could say is no.
I mean, Teresa Romer, the $1 Million Closet lady, right? Literally reached out on Instagram. Just how many people think, oh, she gets flooded with messages and she's not going to see it. Well, she's definitely not going to see yours if you don't reach out. There was no potential of us sitting down and having this conversation had I not reached out.
Right.
I mean, that's, I think, one of the greatest powers too from social media, from an individual level to, man, I'd love to meet that guy one day. Mm-hmm. Okay. So reach out. He's got an Instagram. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, it really is that simple. I mean, you will definitely get people that turn you down, but that's okay. It's okay. It just wasn't meant to happen, or it's not meant to happen right now.
Timing. Not prepared yet.
Yeah.
Right.
I've had shows that I remember when I was doing my book launch and I was getting on shows, some of them would decline me. Right. And that's fine because I wasn't a big enough name or whatnot. And within a couple of years, they were asking to come be on my show.
Yeah.
See, so that's another thing I think of people about is acceleration curves. I do a speech on this one, is that everybody takes a snapshot of where they're at and they compare themselves relative to somebody that's been doing it faster or longer or more renowned for it. And they go, man, I can never catch that person. And they underestimate their acceleration. So if we all have acceleration curves from 0 to like 100, let's say, for example, like I like to speak about car analogies, right? You're looking at somebody that's maybe further ahead in a longer race, but they've been doing it for 10 years, right? But they may have a really slow acceleration curve. Like it's taken them a really long time to achieve a higher level that you see right now, but they're not really accelerating that fast because they don't have the momentum, the work ethic, the resources, the drive, all these things that maybe that's why they're taking so long to get where they're at. But you think that, hey man, they're way ahead of me, I'm never going to catch them. But maybe you have more skill, more talent, more resources, more dedication, more purpose, more team, more technology, that your acceleration curve could be exceptionally fast. You could be like, and do something in half the time that person that you think's way ahead of you has achieved. So we're all on different acceleration curves. So don't count yourself out.
Did you face that when you started?
Yeah, I think that I'm probably in the top 10% acceleration curve. If I were to compare against my peers, yeah, there's obviously people further ahead of me, but also can track their growth and compared to how I'm growing, because I understand I'm a math guy, man. I like data. It's like, what is it that they're doing that I'm not doing? Am I willing to do that or do more than that to achieve more? Like it always comes back down to actions, right? And am I willing to do more than that person did to achieve where they're at? And if the answer is yes, then like, let's go. Like, what's the excuse? If I'm not willing to do that, I'm just honest with myself. Like, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to do a podcast episode every single day to catch John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneurs on Fire. I'm just not willing to do that. He understood that was a tactical advantage. He's been on my show that, hey, what is it that is different between other entrepreneur shows? Well, he's like, I'll just do 7 days a week. Nobody's doing that. Like he created that blue ocean, right? And that's what he did. It's like, that's not what I want to do. I'd rather do something different. See? So be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, are you willing to do what it takes to get what they have? And if not, then don't do it. Go do something else. Figure out another way to make yourself distinctive.
We have a quote around here within our culture, and it's actions are the separator.
Always.
Period. 4 words. There's something you say you want. The only way you're going to be able to determine that is by your results. And if your actions are not delivering the results that you're looking for, you have to change the things you're doing.
Yeah.
but also peel that back to go back to your thought process. Do you honestly believe that A, you're capable of, and that you truly want it bad enough to do the work that's required to get you there, not the work that's going to get you back to the path of least resistance, right? But that's the power of water.
Yeah.
Right. I love, who said the quote? Just totally escaped me. We was talking about be water, right? Water can take the form of a glass. It can take the form of anything that it goes to, but water also has immense power. Our bodies are 60% water.
Yeah.
Right. So you look at water can be calm. That's its natural state of calm. But you put something in its path when it's building momentum, and it will cut out in the crust of the earth, the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of really looking at what our capabilities truly are, what's within our DNA that is change. That is actually finding paths through adversity. I mean, from being a triathlete to a runner, to a mountain biker, to a bodybuilder. I mean, my physique went from 140 pounds dripping wet as a triathlete to a 210 pound bodybuilder. He knew me back in that day, and 210 pounds, probably 5-6% body fat, totally different physique. But the only way to get better or faster or stronger is you got to take that line in the sand, whether it was, the income you made today in your business, and tomorrow my goal is going to be X amount of sales. Tomorrow, next week's going to be X number of customers. I'm going to get, X number of episodes, or I'm going to give myself these benchmarks, these mailboxes. If you don't give yourself that room to grow, and then you do everything painful necessary to get not only to the line, but move the line a little bit further, you're not making progress. You're just status quo, right? I mean, bodybuilding with the muscle structure itself, it's not going to be given the necessary ingredients to change itself, whether in longer or thicker, stronger fibers, until you push it past its limit.
Yeah.
So, which means you have to go to failure, and then a little bit further beyond failure that's really painful to start seeing progress. Like, it's funny how there's so many examples in life that we have when we just take a step back and look at it.
A lot of similarities in different aspects.
A lot of it. But I think in most really successful people that I've ever come across, most of them had some level of competitive experience or the taste of being an athlete, because there is a direct connect between what you're doing physically to what you're able to process mentally.
Yeah, your belief increases when you push yourself at a physical level.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's contact sports or martial arts or things like that. I would say that being half Japanese, I was one of the shorter people growing up until my junior year of high school. I grew 6 inches.
Wow.
And so, I was playing running back in high school, and I remember my late coach, Henry Winston, he used to say, Whatley, hit that hole. You got to go through the 2-hole. You got to take down them linebackers, and got to run full speed. And just like, I'm thinking, is this guy crazy? Like, at that time, I was probably 5'6", and maybe 140 pounds, and he's telling me to run through a hole and knock down guys that are 6'2", 6'3", 230, 240, like at full speed. It's like, this guy's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized is I didn't understand physics. One of my favorite things is force equals mass times acceleration.
Mm.
So your force is actually equal. If you're smaller, you just have to have more acceleration, your mass, right? It's a numerical calculation. So, okay, I'm smaller. If I run faster, then I'm actually hitting them with the same force. It's like pretty simple math. So I started to trust the science, and I started hitting the hole a little harder, and I used to knock these guys down that were twice my size. And I started to get a little bit stronger belief in myself of what's possible. Like, wow, what else can I calculate acceleration or mass and have these things in my favor, right? So it went from like a coach that would scream at you and like, hit it as hard as you can, and like thinking he's crazy, to really like understanding why. If he would have just explained the physics behind it, I probably would have picked it up a lot sooner. So take that same analogy and look at your business or your personal brand or your influence, like the force, which is the influence, the result that you truly want, equals mass times acceleration. Mass is your physical size or your resources or where you are in this moment, how you would define yourself as the size relative to your competitors, right? Your mass. Acceleration is acceleration in every regard, right? So if I'm smaller, I just got to create more acceleration to get the same force. If I want to equalize the force of that person that's well known or that business that's well known, but I'm small, I need more acceleration. Mm-hmm. How do I get acceleration? More investment, more time, more skill. Like there's a whole lot of answers to get the acceleration, more marketing, right? So very simple physics calculations can be applied to a lot of different aspects of your life.
What are 3 habits that you've adopted over your lifetime through your careers? You've been able to really start moving the needle in your own life financially, just in your business acumen, and through the different ventures you've had. What are 3 really important habits you've learned that are truly the most important for you?
I think one of the main ones that most people will fail at is they focus too much on money instead of the result or the purpose behind what they've created. Most of the successful people outside of like venture capitalists and people that are private equity just focus purely on money and multiples. Most small business owners become financially successful as a result of the thing that they created, but that was never their intention, right? It's like they just wanted to focus on delivering a really good product or be exceptional at the service. And then the money is like the reward. That's the score. Like I think about things like a video game or a board game. I like games. I used to play a lot of games when I was a kid. So business itself is a game. You have rules in sports and you have rules in business. You have rules in games. Like what are the rules in business? Taxes, regulations, laws. Like those are the rules. We all have the same rules. Every year, sometimes the president will reset the rules, but we all get the same rules. And we're like, well, shit, well, how do we win the game with these rules, right? That's the rules. It's a game. So then how do you execute to deliver the best advantage or the result based on those rules? Like that's processes, systems, the product, the customer service, all these things that you need to do to accomplish the win. Score at the end of the day is just the financial side of it. Most people get that backwards. They come to me and go, hey, I want to be a millionaire in 3 years. Like, okay, cool. What do you want to do? I don't know yet. Like they're so fixated on the money that they haven't even thought about the purpose, what the business idea is, why they think they're capable to deliver that or be the best at that. Or are they even willing to go learn that skill or knowledge and become whatever it takes to become the right person, right? Are they willing to change themselves to get a different outcome? And I think a lot of people aren't really willing to do that. They think they talk like they want to, but they aren't. What are you really doing to show me that you've improved? When's the last time you read a book? Like you ask them that, like high school.
Well, I'm not a reader.
Oh yeah, I got no time to do that. Like, oh, you don't have any time. Like, oh, cool. CEOs that I know that own several companies still have time to read a book. Like you have a job. Like how do you have less time than Elon Musk who reads all the time? Like how do you have less time than these other notable people that you admire that have multiple companies, family, all the excuses you have, check boxes? Somebody out there has had worse or more, and they still did what it took, right? So, yeah.
Their identifiers in the wrong, it's rooted in the wrong thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Which means their purpose is not.
It's a shift. It's a shift, man. It's like here's a tough love Tony version. Like whatever you're doing right now in your life, start calling it your priority. Call it your priority. So if you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix every night, call it your priority. It sounds really weird, right? Like my priority is to play Xbox. My priority is to watch movies. Like that just sounds weird, and it should sound weird, but that's the truth, because whatever you're doing with your time is your priority, no matter what it is. Maybe it's clubbing or going to the strip clubs or what. That's your priority. Like maybe if it is like, hey, maybe you're a fun person to go party with. I don't know, but that is your priority.
But do your priorities match your ambition?
That's it. See? So when you start to think about like, it's not my priority to sit on the couch. Like apparently it is, because that's what you're doing. Well, what is your real priority? What would you rather be doing? What's going to move the needle to get to the result that you want? Well, maybe I need to go start a business. Maybe I need to join a coaching group, or maybe I need to hire someone that knows the skill set that I want to become better at and go to do those things, right? So you shift your priorities by calling everything a priority. Whatever you're doing is your priority. So I think that was that's number 2, right? Mm-hmm. Number 3 kind of touches back on what we talked about earlier. If you could learn the skill, and it's a skill. This is something everybody can learn. If you can learn a skill of not giving a fuck what other people say or think about you, you will get so much further in life, because we're so worried about that fear of judgment, the criticism, the negative, the backlash. Like, we're afraid of that. And I'm not telling people to go out there and be antagonistic and start things and be a dick.
Doesn't give you a reason to be an asshole.
No, don't be like be provocative, be polarizing, be bold with your statements, because that's what a true thought leader is they're willing to be bold with their statements and be willing to change their perspectives, given new evidence, new data, new realizations, new experience, and be equally bold with what they believe today and disregard what they said yesterday because they believe this today, and they can tell you why. That's what a thought leader is. Most people will have completely different perspective shifts, but they won't say that because they have built their identity on their previous version of the self. They built their society and their friends and their peers and all these things built on the old version of themselves. Like, a simplest way to say this would be like political stuff, right? We see a lot of politics. People identify like, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. They define themselves based on a label, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say that you're a liberal, you're a Democrat growing up, and you believed all those ideals for reasons that you have. And maybe you started to learn new things that didn't really align with that. And you started to lean a little bit more right. Well, the vast majority of people will still hold on to say, like, I'm a Democrat because I believe I'm a Democrat. Mm-hmm. Even though internally they don't agree with anything that's in that party right now, they'll go say that and keep repeating it because they built an identity around that and they're afraid of pissing off their mom and dad and their friends and their coworkers that think that they should fit in that box with them. Well, a true thought leader will be like, you know what? I used to think like this, and I used to believe this, and I had good reasons to believe that. But now, given this, and this, and this, and things I've realized and come to discover, new perspectives and conversations I've had, I actually believe this now, and I'm okay with that. That's what a thought leader does. You're willing to change, but be bold, provocative, polarizing, right? Not starting fights, sharing your position. And when you realize that haters, naysayers, critics, whatever you want to label these people, they exist as you start to become more vocal and be a little bit more opinionated and start to do things that are worth noticing. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm nice to everybody and I got no haters. And they pat themselves on the back. They're proud of that. Like, I make everybody happy. That's bullshit. Mm-hmm. If you don't have any haters or naysayers or critics, what it really means is that you're obscure and that nobody gives a fuck about what you're doing and you're not doing anything worth noticing. And that's tough love, because as soon as you start to do something worth noticing, whatever that is, it will draw those people out of the darkness and they'll start to throw the stones at you and be critics. And like, you're guaranteed to probably have about 5% of those people. And the problem is that most people aren't used to that.
Yeah.
And this is a journey I've had to go through really in the last 4 years myself. People aren't used to that because they're like, I'm such a good person and I have good intentions. And why are these people so negative? Why are they saying such negative things to me? Like, I'm just trying to do the right thing. Like, and you are, but you realize that as you grow brighter and you start to do things and you start to do things that people notice, your brightness will illuminate the darkness in the people that get uncomfortable around you. And rather than them trying to step into the light with you and go on that journey, they're going to tell you to turn your light down a little bit. Can you dim that shine? Can we put sunglasses on and just tell you to, like, hey man, chill out, quit doing that so much. Like, you're bothering me. Like, you're making them uncomfortable, right? With your brightness. So
is that exposing their own fears, their own
lack of ability, lack of courage. Like, they wish they could do that. Or, you know, like the fitness thing we talked about a few times, and this, like, if you're hanging around with a bunch of fat friends and you start getting in shape, they're going to start to say things to you.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey man,
eat a steak. You're getting too skinny.
They say that shit to you, right? And it's like, it's passive aggressive. It's subconscious on their part. It's uncomfortable for them to see you doing what they know they could do. They know damn well they could do it if they just put that same effort in, but they don't have that drive or that purpose, so they're not going to do that. So it's easier to just talk you off the ledge. Like, are you sure you know what you're doing? Like, that's kind of scary. Like, what are you doing this for? Right? Like all that bullshit. So if you could learn the skill of disregarding the negative naysayers and critics, understand that that's part of the game, that you're going to have those, and focus on the 95% of people that are okay with you or accept you or encourage you or support you. Like there's 95% of those people if you're not a dick, right? And give less power of these people that aren't doing anything. And the way I say this is that hopefully everybody listening or watching this makes it to their deathbed someday in their ripe old age. They've achieved everything that they want and they're surrounded by their loved ones, because what's going to happen, and this is the situation for most people that go into that situation, is that they always look back and they have regrets, not on what they tried and failed, but what they never tried. Mm-hmm. The regret is always the things that you never tried. So if you wanted to be a guitar player or a singer or a public speaker or like whatever it is, like start a business, whatever, you're going to always regret the things you didn't try. And then the next logical question is, why didn't I try that? Why didn't I try that? I could have done it. And the answer is because I was afraid of what other people are going to say or think about me failing at that. Right? And so imagine laying in your deathbed in that moment, realizing that you didn't go pursue your real dreams because you're so worried about what these assholes and critics are going to say about your attempt. And then you're going to look around the people that are actually at your deathbed, and you're going to realize that those haters and naysayers that dictated your entire fucking life are not there at your deathbed, but you let them run your life.
Opinions are funny. Unsolicited opinions are interesting because they come from people that really don't have your best interest at heart, because they feel so entitled that whatever they have to say is going to enrich you. It's going to maybe discourage you because they are insecure enough, not entitled enough, that if you do go for it, it's going to expose their own unwillingness to give a risk on themselves. So how dare you do it, right? Yeah. People will applaud your success until it surpasses their own. Then they criticize you. Yeah. But it's funny with criticisms, and this is where I think the circle is really important of who you're getting your influence from, because you never get criticisms when you're on the battlefield.
Never.
You only get criticisms by people on the sidelines.
Always.
The people that are not playing, the people that are not bleeding, the people that are not working, the people that are not going for it, the people that are not leveling up every day. But then if you do want criticism from somebody on the battlefield, you have to go ask for it.
Yeah, because they're trying to cover their ass and hustle, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, a good example of that, I think last week, I made some polarizing post. Imagine that, anybody that follows me on Facebook. And somebody that I've known a couple of years, just kind of on the fringe of the industry, he replied indirectly because he didn't have the courage. He goes, I lose respect for people that do this, this, and this, and maybe that's not their expertise, and they should stay in their lane, kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. I think I was probably talking about vaccines or whatever, like, and I'm not a doctor, right? But I have an opinion. And I said, well, I lose respect for people who are not courageous enough to speak directly to the person they're trying to, passively aggressively, like say that they lost respect for. Then further, what makes you think I care if I have your respect or not? What level of entitlement do you have, or how were you raised to believe that someone I don't fucking do business with or care about, I actually want their respect? And he didn't like that answer, of course. So it's true though. People think that you should respect them. Like, no, you need to earn my respect. I don't just hand it out.
Discerning with insights from people. I don't know why. Maybe you get it too. People love to approach you. Hey, I've got some advice for you, or I saw this and I wanted to, can I give you some advice? My first question is, have you done it better?
Yeah.
Or is this just opinion?
Yeah.
Because I want to hear from people with experience.
Always.
Right? And I hope you're crushing it enough that where I'm at and where you at, you see from empathy is where you're coming from, that you've learned some lessons that you want me to avoid.
Right.
But if you haven't done it, I don't want to listen to it.
Right. Unless they're giving feedback based on the perspective of how they consume what you've created. So if it's a customer or a listener to your show and they're giving you constructive feedback on what to improve, like that's cool, right? But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of business coaches out there like me, but there's a lot of business coaches out there who have never started or even managed a business. And it's like, how the hell are they teaching people about business when they've never had any risk, they've never done any, they have no results. And to be honest, when I decided to go into this industry in 2015, I avoided really doing that. The book came out in May of 2018. Like the next 2 years, I really had some soul searching because I knew I had value to create and offer in that realm. But I also didn't want to be lumped in with all these fake ass people who had never achieved anything. So when you call yourself a coach, people automatically will lump you into the category of like, oh, you know, you're a fraud, you're an imposter, like you're trying to take money from people, you've never done anything. Like they automatically put you in that category in it because I've seen all these fakes. Like you and I like to consume books. You and I have both read New York Times best-selling books that were brilliant books. And then when you go do research on the author to see what they achieved before that book, you realize they hadn't done shit in their lives. Like they literally just wrote a book on something they have zero experience in. And then you start to think like, who they've regurgitated or repurposed this information from? Because clearly, if you go look back on the history, they haven't done anything that they're taught. And they're a New York Times best-selling author. And that bothered me when I started to see the fakery in the industry. And that's one of the reasons it took me another 2 years to finally throw my hat in the ring, dude.
Now, the throwing the hat in the ring actually came from a pretty significant moment in life.
Yeah.
Right? Can we talk about that?
Yeah. 2015, I used to race cars and write for the magazine articles like I'd mentioned earlier. And I was at the drag strip in Baytown, and there was a shop there with a twin turbo Dodge Viper, and I've got a couple of those, and I'm used to running low 9-second passes in these cars, and I've had thousands of passes. And they were trying to set a new national record, and they couldn't do it with their driver. So they said, hey, Tony, can you drive the car for us? Like, it's the last pass of the night. We're going to change the tires. Like, we're going to go, like, turn it up a little bit on the boost and just try to get a 9-second pass out. I was like, cool, I got this. Let's do this, right? And it was a hard launch. Things went really well. I could feel like it was, like, really pulling. I could tell he's like, this is going to be a 9-second pass, easy, right? And I threw it in the top of third gear, around 130 miles per hour, and the car started pulling to the right. I was only one on the track, thank God, but I was in the right lane, and it started kind of moving towards the wall. And I'm thinking, man, I'm just going to stay in it because I can keep this thing off the wall. Like I just steer it to the left a little bit, right? Cars at 1,000 horsepower, like get out of line a little bit. And in that moment, I felt a little bit of an adrenaline thing, a little bit of a fear thing, because that's just racing, right? And here I'm turning left, and the car's still wanting to go right, like towards this wall. And I couldn't understand, like, what the hell's going on with this thing, right? Like, why is it doing this? And soon enough, I'm grazing that wall with the side of the car. Now my emotion went from fear to anger at myself and disappointment because I damaged a very expensive car that I didn't own, right? That was trusted with this thing, and it's grazing the car. And I just remember, like, okay, this pass is obviously over. I'm not going to, like, continue to crash this car out, right? And so I just said, okay, if that's the worst case, I'll just slow down and come off this wall. And then as I came off the wall, the car went hard left. I'm steering straight, and the car went hard left. And I was like, what the hell, you know? And what come to find out later is that something in the right rear suspension had broke during the pass when I hit third gear. And on an independent rear suspension car, that makes the wheel steer, like in the back, it's not a solid axle. So it's like literally like pushing a shopping cart backwards and the caster's on the wrong side. Yeah. So the rear is steering for me, whether I want to or not. Wow. So now I'm looking at the left lane Jersey barrier, concrete wall, 130 miles per hour in a two-door sports car that's not caged out, street car. I got a seatbelt on and a helmet on. And in that moment, I did a real quick calculation. It's like, I'm going to die. I was like, here, I actually said to myself, well, here I go in that moment. And it was this really weird phase. I know it was milliseconds at that speed, but it felt like an eternity. Yeah. And I won't say that like I had life passing before my eyes, anything like that. It was nothing like that. It was just, I just said, well, here I go. And here's the weird thing about that moment. I can still remember it like it was yesterday, is that I felt an overwhelming sense of peacefulness. Just calm and peaceful and warm in that moment. Knowing that certain death is about to occur, I'm calm. I'm going out doing what I love. Well, here I go, right? And obviously the impact occurs, the airbags deploy, it's dark, the lights are flickering on, the cabin's full of white powdery smoke. I can hear the entire car just coming to pieces. I hear glass breaking and carbon fiber being ripped to pieces and aluminum and sliding. And I just remember like surviving the impact. I closed my eyes right before I hit the wall and I opened them. And I remember just seeing all this stuff and hearing this racket and the engine making terrible sounds. And just remember, like, I need to get out of this car. I need to get out of the car, and it's still sliding. And I just remember, stay awake, stay awake, stay awake. I was just thinking to myself, like, I didn't know if I was injured or not. I just remember I was conscious. And through race training and things like that, most people die in the fire, not from the impact, because they get knocked out and shit goes up in the flames. And every fluid in that car, brake fluid, transmission fluid, gasoline, oil, like all the fluids are flammable. All it takes is one spark, and you're literally sliding in a metal vehicle on a road, right? And the car finally comes to a rest, and I had to pry the door open because I'd crashed in that side, and I got out, and I didn't know if I was injured or not. I just remember still being peaceful, calm. I took my helmet off. I'm looking at the car, and every single panel in this car is damaged in, and there's literally wheels off of the car. There's fluid strewn hundreds of feet, and I could hear the paramedic on the far side of the track making it up the track. I could hear my friends sprinting up the track, quarter mile, like yelling, and I hear four-wheelers approaching and all these people.
Are you standing up?
I was just standing up, and I had my helmet off, and I was looking at the wreckage. And when they arrived, it was the dark end of the end of the track, and I was just standing there looking at the cars, and they put me in the paramedic. She pulled up next to the car, and fire people get out and just spraying down the car to make sure it doesn't catch on fire. And I'm sitting in the back of the ambulance looking at the wreckage, and I take my shirt off, and she's looking around. She's asking me questions to see if I have a concussion. I'm answering really clearly. And after she kind of does a physical, she goes, "Do you mind if I tell you something that's really unusual?" I was like, "Oh crap, here it goes." Like, because I didn't know if I was injured. That you hear that when you get adrenaline, like you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking the worst when she said that, and she goes, "You're just remarkably calm." She goes, "People crash out here all the time, and they get the adrenaline shakes in their voice and their cold sweats and things like you described when your body was shutting down, like that kind of stuff, the fight or flight." And I said, "I am really calm." And she goes, "Yeah, your blood pressure, your heart rate, like everything's calm." And it was the same calmness I had when I was approaching the wall. And so what was going through my mind, this is something I had to figure out later. And I was looking at the wreckage, and I was like, I could have died right there. Mm-hmm. And then you start thinking, what's the next question? Like, what would have happened if I died? Like, how would I have been remembered? And so I started thinking back to some friends and passed away from maybe racing or motorcycles, the same situations, things like that. How are they remembered? It's always the same thing. It was always so-and-so's a good guy, gone too soon, cool cars, like very superficial stuff that unless you're a dirtbag or a crap ass human, like you're going to aspire to be remembered as a good guy, right? That's what we all want to remember, is be a good guy. And I would have been remembered. Like I really thought about this. How would I have been remembered? I would have been remembered as rich guy, cool cars, nice. Like that, just being honest, right? And I said, is that good enough? The answer is no. The answer is not. That's not good enough. For someone who claims to be a high performer, claims to be someone that pushes people, I realized in those moments that the only people that had benefited from my true passion, which is business. I've been a kid. Since I was a kid, I was reading Forbes and Entrepreneur. I didn't have money. I figured, like, if I could learn this and play this game, maybe I can get money, right? And the only people that have made successful were people that used to work for me. I built 12 of them into millionaires, built 7, 8, and 9-figure companies for people that used to work for me. And they were always telling me, like, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. But as I alluded to earlier, I didn't like being in the spotlight. I was really uncomfortable. I have insecurities around things, how we look. I've vitiligo. I'm covered with white spots. Like you can see them on my face. I've had these white spots and things like that. And these, and since I was a kid, and people would look at me like, what's wrong with you? You got a disease or just things like that. And I just got really uncomfortable. So I just avoided putting myself in the spotlight. I was always a high achiever, hiding behind my brand logos, being the best supporting actor kind of role, like of other people, and building my own success in corporate. But I never felt that I deserved or that I had the courage to be in the spotlight. So I just avoided that, And I realized that after that accident that I could have impacted far more people than just the people that knew me. And it's like, well, shit, what do I need to do? Like, what does that even mean? Like, how am I going to go create that impact? What does that mean to me? And I left my corporate career, and people thought I was crazy. I mean, you go leave a $200,000 plus salary behind.
That's when you did it. That was your pinnacle for that.
A month later, I was like, you know, there was industry downturn. There was a lot of layoffs going on in end of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't want to come back. I'm not going to come back. I need to go create impact. And my wife's been with me since I started the first business. So she knows that sometimes I get a wild notion to go do something and I go all in. I usually get the result that I say I'm going to get because I put in the work to do that. So she's always supported me, and she's like, okay, I know that you need to go do something. Like, she knew that there was a change that occurred in me that I needed to go scratch that itch, so to speak. And so the next 2 years I was just picking up contract gigs and things like that and thinking about how I was going to create impact. Like, what does that even mean? Do I go build a nonprofit? Do I become a big philanthropist? Like, what does that even mean? Like, and like the whole like meaning of life questions are hard to answer for everybody.
Yeah.
And so for me, and I hope the listeners can relate to this for themselves, is we all have the capability, every one of you listening, everybody here has the capability to change the world. I truly believe that in your own way. We don't all going to do it the same way, but somewhere inside you, there is a skill that you have not sharpened or even discovered yet, or a talent or ability that you need to uncover that is going to help change this world. It could be knowledge-based. It could be physical-based. Whatever it is, there's something in everyone here that can change the world. And now, I'm not saying literally that you're going to go change billions of lives. It could be that way, right? But you could change thousands, which changes the world. You could change millions, which will literally change the world. So it's up to you to go do the hard work to discover what that means to you and the best way you're going to serve. And for me, what it came down to is that I've only loved cars and business since I was a kid. And so everybody knew about my car stuff and my car businesses. What if I started teaching people how to do business? Because I could speak about entrepreneurship at a very high level for a very long time, and I'm excited about it. So maybe the best way I am going to change this world is by impacting the generational legacy of people that want to invest in themselves to become business owners or make their businesses more successful. Mm-hmm. So that's where I said, that's how I'm going to change the world. Now, I'm almost 49. Another month, I'll be 49. Maybe at 50, I'll have some other purpose. And I'm okay with that because that uncertainty is something I crave, right? I don't like to fall into routine. So I may hit 50 and go, you know what? I'm going to go build this now. But right now, I'm all in on what I'm doing right now. See what I mean? So if you're listening to this, start to figure out how are you best going to change the world? And don't limit yourself to the constraints of the current skill sets or talents that you currently have or the current knowledge that you have.
Or the lies of the past.
Ask yourself, what are you willing to go evolve into or learn or become to create that impact or discover it? Like the public speaking thing, dude, I had stage fright. I did that just so I could get interviewed because I was so worried about like not being ready for that. Mm-hmm. And it unlocked something I truly love doing now. And I get to speak at all these different events around the country and impact more lives. That fulfills my purpose.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea that was a talent or a skill inside me until I unlocked it and I discovered it.
I love public speaking because it scares the living shit out of me.
Hell yeah. It's the adrenaline rush, man.
I remember growing up and I'd never wanted to be the kid called on to read or to come up to the board.
Never.
I wanted to live a life of obscurity. And I remember in college, I was in college for 2 semesters and I tapped out. Speech 101. It was in like a dungeness classroom of this one building. And it was kind of some weird kids, to be honest. And I'm like, one of my best good friends was in the class too. He's now a very well accomplished and notable attorney. Super fitting, went off to Harvard Law, all the cool stuff. And I remember in that class, and he and I were both in debate in high school. the debate teacher always put us on opposing sides because we at least would be willing. But again, I wanted to throw. I did throw up several times. Like I hated it, but I grew to understand the thing that in the company, they always want the MD nugget. They always want the MD thing. And are you gonna speak? It gives me so much anxiety. People look at it like I'm just natural at it. It's just because I've done it, but I do it because it's that thing I used to get before a race. Like I would have to go to the bathroom, go throw up. I would get the shakes, performance anxiety.
Yeah.
Dealing with imposter syndrome.
Always.
But that's also the thing that keeps me doing it because it gives me such a scared challenge. And this is something I know that if I get up, I can do it. But I'm continually testing my fear. Right?
You know what? You're not afraid of it. This goes back full circle to what we talked about a couple times during this episode.
Uh-huh.
You're afraid of what other people think.
I tell you what my fear is, that I'm wasting their time.
Found it. Now, if you've prepared and you're speaking on things you're an expert at, that part goes away, right?
I still deal with it though. Like it's so funny.
So
Tony.
Stage fright, here's how you get people over stage fright. You got to realize that stage fright it's internal thinking. It's me. How do I look? How do I sound? Am I using the right words? Am I fumbling? Do I know what I'm talking about? It's too inward focused. That's what causes stage fright. When you know that, how do you get past that? You go and deliver content to the audience. If you're there purely to serve the audience, whether that's on a microphone or a video or a stage, I can't wait to teach you this. I can't wait to educate you this. I can't wait to entertain you. When you're there purely to serve the audience, it's outward focus. And you don't even think about yourself. You're going to feel that physiological signs of fear before you take the stage. That's human nature, unless you're a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
But if you can catch yourself and go, I'm not scared. I'm actually excited because I can't wait to educate, entertain, inspire. I can't wait to do that because the same physiological signs of fear, those physical things, the hand sweats.
It's the same as excitement.
It's the same as excitement.
I just have to rechannel it.
Rechannel it and focus on the audience. And when you're out on stage or on a camera, pick people out and speak directly to them as you're speaking and build connections. And now you're focused again, just like we're talking, just with more people. That's all it is.
After the first couple of sentences, I get into it.
You get the flow state.
Because I learned just practicing to create physical motion, but also I look at 5 points of the audience.
Yeah.
So that I'm getting eye contact. Number one, to read the room and read the response of things I'm talking about and really get that energy. Cause I'll look somebody straight in the eyeball when I'm talking.
You should,
and
they want you to,
yeah,
because the whole time you do that, they're sitting in the audience going, Michael David's talking to me. And that's what you want. You're not talking at them. You're talking to him or her. See?
Man, that's a really good point, Tony. I never thought about that. I need to redirect that thought process. Yeah. Wow. That was incredible. Just that one little sentence right there. That's amazing.
Outward focus. That will cure the stage fright. It takes reps. But when you get excited about, because you're ready, you're prepared, like you want to go teach these people, like I want them to have some takeaways, like that's when you start to focus on becoming a speaker. And then once you get past that stage fright, you can start focusing on the tactics, the voice control, the cadence, the stage presence, the gestures. Like those are tools necessary to create influence when you're speaking, but you're not going to really be focused on those while you're still worried about yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking is a powerful thing. And it took me a long time to, do I even have something to talk about, but then I only talk about, like you said, only talk about things I know.
That's it.
Stick
with what you know, man.
And that has, and my life is what I know.
Yeah. There's key subjects that you're an expert at.
Yeah.
So speak on those. I mean, I've had people, these event organizers like, hey, love to have you come speak at your event. Can you speak on one of these topics? And it's like, they'll give me 3 that I have no clue about. I'm like, not really. No, thank you. But if you'll do these 3, I'll be happy to consider that. See, so you're going to feel really uncomfortable taking the stage or a microphone or a video talking about things you're not an expert in. Your confidence is going to suffer. Like, why would you want to go give your C game, because it's going to be your C game, not your B game. Like,
and then if somebody asks a question you don't have any knowledge of, you're not going to be able to answer.
You know how embarrassing that would be? Like, why would you put yourself in that situation? Right?
Yeah. Guys, I highly encourage you to get Tony's book. There are a lot of business books out there, but some either write as if you already have to be, a $1 billion expert in it, or some are so rudimentary that they almost talk to you like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
This one, Side Hustle Millionaire, is not some, Clancy novel of 1,000 pages. It is an easy read, as he said earlier, by design. But the thing that it's going to teach you, that if you have considered doing a side hustle, consider doing something to create for you a stream of income that can give you the ability to take vacations, can give you to be able to maybe just cover a car note, or, save for kids' college or something. You have a definable goal of what you're wanting to do. He's going to lay out exactly how to approach it, how to plan it out, and how to execute, which is the most important part.
Yeah.
Right. Tony, with all that you have been doing and how you approach the things that you do and how you even help other people, what would be that one thing where people they've been stuck in this contemplation state, right? Maybe it's laced with fear. Maybe it's laced with a lot of unknowns. What would be that one key thing that you would tell them to do to get them out of not to the place of do?
I think you just have to sit there for a second and think about what your life could be in a year, because things can happen pretty quickly when you start to take actions. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening or watching to this, be real judgmental right now of yourself and ask yourself, are you the same person you were a year ago? Or even worse, if you're the same person you were 5 years ago, are you at the same income level, same job, same friends, same routine? Nothing's really that inspiring to you. Realize that that's by choice. And when you start a business or do something, even like the fitness journey we talked about, 1 year is a huge difference. And it all starts with finding knowledge from the people, like you said, who have done things. Mm-hmm. And if you can't afford coaching, buy the books, because a $14 book, if I can learn one thing that I can take away from every book I read, and that's easy to do. The books mm-hmm. that you and I read, you're going to take more than one thing away. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like if the author would have said, hey, I'm going to teach you this one thing for $14, I'd be like, take 14 here, take more of it, because I want to learn this right away.
Yeah.
Right. So start looking at books as nuggets that you can take away for $14 or $10 or $15 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Right. But just get started, and don't think that you have to have all the answers at the beginning, because the number one regret, and I actually did the survey in that book, the number one regret from all business owners, over 100 that I surveyed, was not starting sooner. Mm. And if you know that the number one regret is not starting sooner, then why are you not starting today? Like literally, you could go create the LLC, start the checking account, create a PayPal account, like the real simple nuggets that put you in business, the opportunity to put you in business. So just take the action without knowing all the answers, and then refine and improve as you go. It's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. Tony, how can people connect with you?
Keep it easy there. One website, 365driven.com. So 365driven.com.
Guys, thank you for listening today. This was one that I was really excited about personally, because he's a practitioner. There are a lot of ideologists out there, a lot of theology going out there, a lot of unexperts throwing out expert opinion. But Tony's one of those guys that you need to connect with. No matter where you are in your business, no matter where you are from day 0 to $1 billion, you always have to be open to learning from someone else, because that's always going to guarantee progress in your own life when you execute on it. But Tony's never going to steer you wrong. Check with him at 365 Driven. Guys, if you want a copy of his book, you can go to...
You can find it on the website or on Amazon.
And we are also going to do a contest on our Instagram to win an autographed copy of his book.
All right.
So make sure to follow and subscribe on our Instagram. And until next time, Be great.